Welcome back, Commander. I am Korak, your host for the evening, and this is Kane's Wrath. This is our continued coverage, moving on to wave number 9, of course, on the Chrono Clash 2. Welcome to Tournament Airstrip. Starts off over in the top right-hand corner of the map, rocking the yellow, playing the GDI. Give it up for Senna. His opponent from the moment in the top left-hand corner of the map, rocking the cyan, playing the black hand. This is Dimitri. The Chrono Clash 2, of course, is powered by Chronosphere for app and site teams who want less guesswork and more. Yep, it broke right there. Scouts are already out and ready to go. No one has decided to grab the Tiberium Spike just quite yet. It looks like Senna might be the first to grab it, but he has forgotten his engineer, making a classic mistake. Or the engineer's on his mandated union break. Who knows? Wouldn't surprise me to find out that GDI is ran by unions. We should have a little bit of screen tearing there. Give me 1 second to fix that. I forgot to pop up lossless. There it is. Engineer went off of his break and grabbed his Tiberium Spike for Senna over in the bottom sector of the map. Dimitri not even carrying 2 contested just quite yet. Happy to just rock a standard build, not waste the additional income or take the risk on that Tiberium Spike. Dimitri also being the first to expand into his natural expansion, followed shortly behind Senna. Senna already rolling his way over to that natural expansion. Power plant over for the natural expansion for, looks like Dimitri. Dimitri's got his 2 refineries and his 5 harvesters. Looks like Senna is the same, but just a little bit behind on the harvester, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like he may have forgotten a harvester there in general because he went to go send one down to the south to support this refinery that's going to pop out, but he's not quite ready for it. Looks like refinery is going to pop out really close to about the same. So this is nice to see that we have more of these players that are closer in lockstep with one another. We've had previous games where the build orders are just a little bit off from one another. It looks like Senna's just a little bit ahead, about 600 per minute, but Dimitri should catch up quickly in that economic front. No real harassment just quite yet, so it looks like everybody's just going for standard traditional openers. It would be nice to see Senna scout out Dimitri just a little bit more, but I don't think Dimitri does too many rushes. He seems to be, I don't want to say solid as in the players who don't, or as in the players who do rushes aren't solid players, but solid as in, like, he's consistent in his tactics. He's usually pretty tight on things. I don't think he's quite as practiced. I think Senna might be a little bit more practiced than him, so that could be a contributing factor going forward, but only time will tell. First couple of bike and buggy are already out. It looks like we've got 3 bikes here to join this fray. 1 Pitbull getting caught out in a fortunate position, which means it's not going to be ready there for the assault. It does get a couple of shots off here and there. Another bike joining the fray. Still need 1 more bike to do 2 volleys on that, but they're going to run right into the watchtower. Watchtower's already going to destroy 1 bike, leaving only 3 remaining. Another watchtower popping its way up. Looks like Senna has those out and is ready for him. A couple of Pitbulls here to drive the nail home, pushing Dimitri out of his base, stopping that early assault. Dimitri undeterred, looking for another snack to grab. Looks like he's got a lot of build power behind all of these units. Pitbull coming out just at the wrong time, running directly into its doom, leaving only 4, 5, 6 here for the defense, but that should be enough with the Watchtower 7, and of course with those couple of units. Pitbull's moving their way in. Their concave isn't exactly where they need to. Looks like they're kind of all over the place. Another one getting caught over here. Dimitri having a much tighter formation, but that defender's advantage is really strong, especially for a player like Senna. Senna pushing out the remainder bike and buggy. Majority of the bikes are actually destroyed here in this attack move forward. A couple more are going to join. Does look like we've got at least 1 flame tank that is going to get exposed. Pitbulls are going to see it. It's at very least going to kill that foxhole. Assault has really begun in earnest. Pitbulls are being pushed back entirely. Dimitri doing a good job of protecting his flame tank. That flame tank still has a little bit ways to go. Looks like the flame tank's going to go for that Tiberium Spike. Tiberium Spike going to go down. Hopefully he's just distracting his opponent while another flame tank sneaks north. Only time will tell. Flame Tank and Bike and Buggy splitting up. That way he can hit in one spot while his opponent cannot see the other. Couple of Orca Strikes moving there for the Scout here in a minute. Flame Tank moving over in the south. Pitbulls mirroring the Bike and Buggy over here on this side. Good number of Predator Tanks out. A couple of Predator Tanks might actually be able to catch the Flame Tank. There it is. It looks like they are indeed going to catch that Flame Tank. Senna has not forgotten about it. Dimitri going full Sin inside of Senna's base, taking out a couple of the Hammerheads, but ending up in a really precarious position. This is not where he wants to be. He does get a good one-click off. If he can get a couple of Harvesters, it might be useful, but I think the damage is really here for Senna. Senna just has too many tanks, has too much firepower for him to really do anything as he loses the majority of his forces. Dimitri getting kicked out of Senna's base. A little bit unfortunate for him. Flame Tank dying in the south. Doesn't look like another one was able to sneak its way over in the north. That would be nice to see if he was able to get one off, but it looks like he wasn't going full send into those Flame Tanks. Senna happy to build up more Bike and Buggy, but looks like he's actually going to tech up early. He's already got his T3 out. He's building his Redeemer here in the background. Senna looks like he's following suit. So both players are really in lockstep with each other when it comes to their build orders. They know when to T3 up. They know when to move to this, when to move to that. A couple of Harvesters going for Blue Tiberium, but they have to back their way out. Bike and Buggy with Tip Core Rockets, taking a couple of really good shots off on the Hammerheads. Does look like Harvester's only able to get nominal bits of Tiberium there, which is unfortunate for them, which means they've wasted a little bit of a trip. Both players are still pretty tied for economy. It looks like Senna's just about 3k ahead in total resources gathered. That won't be a massive amount. Senna also starting off strong, already has a couple of Juggernauts out and ready to go, and that Marv should be getting close. Redeemer's actually a little bit behind despite it being started beforehand. Looks like he probably hit a little bit of a lull in his economy, selling off of the engineering facility over there for the Marv. Engineers finally popping their way out. Looks like it's going to be a traditional build inside of that Marv. Dimitri moving his first forces forward. Looks like he's going with a hand of nod to pad out his stats, and why not? He does need something to deal with all of his units, and those will be decent into the Juggernauts, or at least absorbing some of their shots, making a target-rich environment, which of course they want. Both Marvs moving forward, both MCVs moving forward, and setting up those construction yards. Marv harvesting the resources there for Senna. Senna might get a bit of an infusion here, and resources might be a little bit ahead. Looks like it's going to be one Black Hand and one Engineer inside of the Redeemer. Blue Tiberium still being fought over in the north, and losing that Harvester full of Tiberium will sting for Dimitri. Dimitri needs to be careful with his economic struggles. He's leaving his Bike and Buggy there in the north and producing plenty of hands and nods here on the front line. Shredder turrets on the front line. Looks like it's going to be man spam and this Redeemer. Pitbull's moving in for the Scout, trying to see what they can see. They're going to see the man spam is coming their way, and I don't think Senna's ready for it just quite yet. He doesn't have too much to deal with a good chunk of this man spam. These Juggernauts are only going to do so much into all of those. We do have a Space Command, which will help, and most importantly, we do have a couple of sniper teams that were dropped in that should make a difference. A couple of watchtowers would really help there. Not sure what the Redeemer is doing. Black Hand not wanting to make a real engagement there, but they're going to get picked off on their way out. Senna actually moving inside of Dimitri's base, moving a couple of tanks here, going for the economy, but he's going to lose all of these tanks here for it because these Bike and Buggy Tip Core Rockets just do so much damage, but I think the damage is already dealt on this side. Dimitri's got to send yet another Harvester out that way. Marv moving its way in, taking a couple of shots off on these upgraded Shredder turrets. A couple of tanks still left over here in the northern sector of the map, but they're mainly just scouts at this point. Couple of Spectres here to pad out the formation for Dimitri. Dimitri needs to slow that advance as quickly as he can. Juggernauts are going to be quite a pain to deal with. Marv's going to be a pain to deal with. Looks like it's going to be APCs with AP ammo mixed in with a couple of Hammerheads to deal with the man spam. That should really help in combination with the Marv. Senna, though, needs to press his advantage soon because the more and more time he gives Dimitri, the more and more likely Dimitri will be to set up counter after counter like these Spectres. Spectres are revealed. APC moving its way forward, looking for a little bit of scouting here, trying to see what it can see. It's going to see the 3 Spectres and try to get more into the base. He should be able to see a good amount from that, so that should help. A couple of bikes over here in the south. Would be nice if they could grab a couple of these units, even going for a couple of these Juggernauts, but they're just going to get taken out instead. Dimitri not really paying too much attention to them, losing those Tibcore rockets almost for free. Dimitri's still building up his forces, still preparing for this assault. He's not too far behind on the economy, so the players are still tied with one another. Ranked up Predator fighting a couple of units there in the background. Dimitri once again going for that blue Tiberium, which looks like it's already been grabbed. Spectres here in the background doing what they do. Couple of SAM turrets here also to protect them as well. The big problem is going to be dealing with these Juggernauts. These Juggernauts need to go down as quickly as possible, or Dimitri's going to be in a world of hurts. Redeemer already down to half HP in the northern sector of the map. Juggernaut's just absolutely hammering the forces of Dimitri. Dimitri is in trouble. He needs to make some sort of change. He needs to start changing up the tempo of this fight because it's not going in his favor. And to add insult to injury, there is the hammer, and he is the nail. Hammerheads moving their way in, mopping up a couple of these forces, couple of Spectres going down. Spectres need to be destroying the Juggernauts, and indeed, they do get a couple of good shots off. 3 of them do go down, thinning the numbers, but the Juggernauts are split up. The Juggernauts are a little bit everywhere, so the Spectres are going to have a hard time knocking out all of them, and this Marv still has so much HP. Senna moving in, taking up the resources for Dimitri. Dimitri about to be in a world of hurt if he's not careful. Another Spectre going down. Marv just sort of moving its way forward. Spectre's not moving out in time. Being repaired by those 2 engineers. It's just so hard to deal with. And that Redeemer has had to back its way out because of all of the damage from the Juggernauts. GDI artillery is definitely really powerful, and it's showing in this fight. Continuing their hammering over and over. The forces for Dimitri are looking quite anemic, and those Juggernauts are just looking so powerful. There's still no real answer for it. Maybe some air forces, maybe something, maybe a couple of bikes. Dimitri actually throws in the towel. How's it going, Double Evil? I don't know if I caught you while you were still in chat. I was caught up in the match, but welcome to the chat, Double Evil. For those of you who do not know, Double Evil is the one you can thank for the UI I am using for the scoreboard that I'm using. It's one that Cybert and I used. He's finally released it on a public build, and we very much so appreciate it. Either way, moving on to round number 2. Round number 2 takes place on Tournament Odyssey. Over in our top right, of course, we have Senna in the yellow playing the GDI. Looks like he's sticking with his guns. His opponent sticking with the same faction, but switching over to purple, playing Black Hand, we have Dimitri. Black Hand into GDI. GDI showed why they are the powerhouse. He just had a good transition after good transition. Dimitri made a good showing for himself early on in the beginning, but the defenses for Senna were just too tight for Dimitri to find a hole to sneak his way into. And those Juggernauts just continued to put the nail in the coffin over and over. He did not have a response for it. So hopefully he's got some sort of transition. That doesn't necessarily mean Senna's just going to sit there. But hopefully Dimitri's cooking something up in the background to change things around to fight out those Juggernauts. He also wasn't able to get too much use on his Redeemer. Really just getting hammered as soon as it walked its way up. I don't think they really had a problem with build order. I really think the primary difference just entirely boiled down to... Let me make sure my stream is actually running 1 second. Should probably update the score too. There we go. Senna has the first point. Looks like my stream is running. Let's pop up lossless. A couple of scouts for Senna moving inside of Dimitri's base. Probably going to set up a foxhole here in a minute. That's pretty traditional GDI. It looks like we've got 4 harvesters so far, with the 5th one baking on the horizon, 2 refineries. And I'm assuming Dimitri's following suit. Yep. Looks like Senna is a little bit quicker than last time on getting out that 5th harvester. He was a little bit behind, but it didn't really make much of a difference. There's the foxhole placed down, out, and ready to go. No real engagement just quite yet. Natural expansion has been moved upon. It looks like Refinery's about halfway for both players. A little bit less so for Senna, so Senna's a little bit behind where normally he goes step for step with Dimitri. Dimitri not having really any opportunities to do anything sneaky on Senna with that foxhole inside of his base. He could still have time to build a couple of things over here, but he's got to get his economy stabilized first. No all-ins either. Really surprised to see that we haven't seen too much on the all-in front, really, on either side. A couple of Pipples are out, but of course here, the Rocket Squad's here for the defense. Cheap and easy and enough to push out these Pitbulls. Pitbulls have a hard time destroying them, but that's not the same for the Rockets. Dimitri doing all the things right that he needs to so far. Let's see if he can maintain that. A couple of bike and buggies are out. Pitbull is going to catch at least a couple of them. Dealing a couple of shots here to the bike. Pitbull should be perfectly fine. Bikes are going to get crunched in between all of this. That's going to be unfortunate for them. One Pitbull might go down, but at the cost of 3 bikes. Dimitri forgetting about that last bike, just sort of letting it stop, letting it get stuck over there and dying, which means he's going to lose this early skirmishing game. He's got to change up his tactics probably here somewhere because he cannot let Senna build up. He cannot let Senna get that snowball like he was able to get last time. All that armor was quite hard to deal with. A couple of Pitbulls moving their way in, taking a couple of shots. One of them going down to half HP. Early games have definitely switched around this time. Dimitri was definitely the aggressor last time around, but he is being a bit more defensive. Probably because most of his forces got caught up here. Senna just being absolutely on top of it. Refinery actually getting down to half HP due to those rifleman squads. That's got to be a little bit of pain. Looks like it's going to be early man spam. A couple of foxholes ready to see where Dimitri's going to bounce off to. Natural expansion should be developed upon quite nicely, and both sides look like 5 harvesters and probably 5 harvesters here for Dimitri. 1, 2, 3. Actually, 4 harvesters for Dimitri. Dimitri probably a little bit behind on the economy. Let's take a look. Yeah, ever so slightly. Looks like he's down by about a K. Could be a little bit less. I can't see any more than that. Looks like it's going to be APCs. No AP ammo just quite yet. Doesn't look there's anything in them quite yet either. Pitbull's moving their way in. Dimitri looking for some sort of hole that he can find inside of Senna's base. Senna already has a couple of watchtowers, which should do plenty of damage to that. Pitbull's moving their way in, going for the harvesters, taking it down to half HP. Another volley is going to take it out. Dimitri's just absolutely not prepared for this. Harvesters having to completely reverse move. 3 of them having to stop entirely what they are doing. Another one going down to half HP. The bikes finally arrive. The cavalry finally gets here, but it might be too little, too late. Mine drop popping its way down there inside of the Tib field. AP ammo did happen right there. It did complete over in the beginning part of that fight. APCs can absorb a good number of these shots and, of course, stop their retreat when they need. Manspan moving their way in. APCs probably would stand well to destroy a couple of those, but they probably don't want to get bogged down for all of this bike and buggy. Bikey moving their way in, taking a couple of good shots off on the APC, only getting it down to half HP. More and more APCs joining the fray. Senna already up to the shenanigans that his opponent sees. Moving his Pitbulls forward, that's definitely going to cost him. Getting softened up right before the fight is definitely going to sting. APCs on the right, APCs on the left. Should be plenty here to deal with all this man spam. Bike and buggy not moving when they need to be. Bike and buggy finally doing a little bit of damage, but they're also going to get pushed out by the Pitbulls. Microing much stronger here by Senna. Senna mopping up all of these units here. Bike and buggy really just not doing too much. Couple of Pitbulls going down, only 3 of them remaining, which means after this fight is over, they should have plenty of room to start taking down these APCs. He's got plenty of bikes here to do a good number of damage. He just needs to mop up a couple more of those Pitbulls. I would be definitely going for them as quickly as possible. Maybe he's worried about a couple of units. Hard to tell one way or another. A couple of Shredder turrets there here to absorb some of the damage. Hand of Nod does get sold off. Not enough units able to produce. Hammerhead moving its way over on the right-hand side. Going to get taken down by the Bike and Buggy. Bike and Buggy needs to start focusing on targets. Otherwise, these APCs are just going to roll right over his opponent. Just going to roll right over Dimitri. Dimitri's in trouble. He needs to focus fire. He needs to get these APCs out as quickly as possible. At the very least, his harvesters are protected for the current moment, and I have to drive through all of these units, which means there's so many choke points here for him to play with. Senna's forces slowly beginning to diminish, slowly beginning to get taken out, but it doesn't matter as they drop multiple mines inside of their one harvester going down, couple APCs getting a bit of ammo, finally getting pushed out of their base. Dimitri choosing not to take this assault, not putting his units forward where he needs to. APCs continuing their assault, continuing to mop up the man spam and go for a couple of these harvesters. APCs finally going down. Only 5 of them remaining, but still Dimitri has been very tentative in moving back and forward. I know he's waiting on the volleys, but he can keep those riflemen, or not those rifleman squads, those raider buggies engaged with the APCs. It doesn't look like he has set up his bike and buggy on different command orders. A couple of more APCs actually moving into the natural expansion for Dimitri. Senna is on full aggression mode. APCs getting forgotten over there on that side, but I'm not sure they care too much. Harvester going down to half HP. Dimitri might be in a bit of trouble, but the defender's advantage is still pretty strong. Bike and buggy supported over here by a couple of man spam. Those should deal a bit more of difference along with that laser turret. Marv moving its way in. That's going to be something a little bit harder to deal with. Not sure if Dimitri's been able to tech up. A couple of APCs being left over here. Looks like Senna's just absolutely everywhere. Man spam doing plenty of damage to all of these APCs. Pushing out at least those forces, but it looks like he's completely forgotten about Senna over on this side. One harvester full of Tiberium going to get taken out. Those losses are going to stack up. More and more APCs join the fight, join the fray. Couple of engineers making their way over to the Marv. Still no Redeemer. APCs finally going down. They just sort of set up camp inside of there. APC should be the solution here, but I think Dimitri has the advantage in this fight other than the Marv. The Marv's going to be the hardest thing to deal with. If you get those tip core rockets, though, and hit the back of the Marv, that will be a big difference. Maybe tip core rockets and EMPs, but I'm not sure he's been teching up just quite yet. However, the man spam is definitely going to be strong. Those rockets are also pretty good into the Marv, so Marv needs to be cautious with this assault. APC's completely backing out. Senna splitting up his forces here. A couple of might get caught here by pathing, but he does catch it right there at the very end. Bike and buggy leaving to go over to the left-hand side of the map, looking for greener pasture because the man spam is out. The man spam continues to push off APC after APC, Senna forgetting about a couple of APCs. He can't really afford those losses right there. Man spam continuing their engagement on these APCs, just keeping the tempo exactly where they want it to, forcing this fight, which I don't think Senna wants just quite yet. So many APCs going down, despite them having AP ammo. It doesn't matter if the focus fire is better on the man spam. A couple of zone troopers are going to join the fray, and they could thin the numbers, but here comes the cavalry. Here comes the bike and buggy to continue this assault. Zone troopers killing a couple more of those bikes, which is going to be unfortunate for them, but the answer is definitely going to be those raider buggies. A couple of snipers probably deploying, one of them getting sniped over there by the couple of those units. Man spam finally dwindling down, but they've destroyed the majority of the APCs. Hammerhead's over there in the background. Bike's taking a couple of pot shots off, taking him down, taking another APC. Marv down to half HP, and there's not even a Redeemer out on the front line. Dimitri doing a fantastic job, mounting a fantastic defense. The only problem is really going to be these snipers here. Snipers do finally get targeted. Snipers do finally go down. More and more man spam joins the fray, but it's followed up by a whole bunch of APCs. APCs might be better on the transition here for Senna. Senna might actually win this engagement. I thought this was in the bag for Dimitri, but it looks like the production power is really here for Senna. That means there's a 2-0 lead for Senna. Dimitri is in trouble this early on into wave number 9. Welcome to Hampstead Gardens. Dimitri needs to be careful because it looks like Senna only gets, he just needs one more game. So Senna can play risky. Dimitri needs to tighten things up. He did significantly better on that one. Do you have a 1440 monitor? I do. I have a 2K monitor. So that could be something on that. Over in the top right-hand corner, though, of course, we have Senna still in the yellow, still in the GDI. His opponent in the green in the bottom left, Dimitri, still rocking the black hand. wanting a little bit of redemption there for that faction. He does have the potential, he does have the skill to turn things around and to do a reverse sweep, but that all boils down to if Senna's going to let him. Senna's been very, very solid so far in this tournament. He's been very consistent just in general. Might see a little Marv going for a crush. Nope, looks like they're going to ignore it entirely. Harvesters continuing what they're doing. Probably not worth it for them to stop harvesting, for them to go for the crush. Just for a couple of engineers being, or a couple of rifleman squads being annoying. It seems like most players, even Bike Rush, will ignore this most times. So I'm guessing they've probably done the math to figure out what's most cost effective. And usually it's just, even though this is annoying, it's usually cost effective just to sort of ignore those units. Me too. I streamed lately and I figured out that Twitch somehow has a blurry issue at streaming with 1440. Oh, really? That doesn't really surprise me. I've heard a lot of the back-end stuff for Twitch and sometimes even OBS really aren't super great. 1080 streaming looks better than... Really? I just figured, and I'm sort of ignorant when it comes to audio and video editing overall and like what looks better. I always just assume bigger number better, but even with GPUs, that's not the case either. Sometimes GPUs will come out later on, which are worse than the previous ones. A couple of bike and buggies out here for Dimitri, moving their way over to his side of the map, moving their way over to Senna. Senna's a little bit prepared for it. He's got 3 pit bulls, which should do plenty of damage. However, the microing could be stronger over here for Dimitri. Dimitri already getting a couple of good volleys off. Watchtower popping its way out. Harvester's having to stop Harvesting getting down to half HP. If they're not careful, they might lose a couple of units. Few volleys got wasted over there on the pit bulls. Harvester does finally go down, but Dimitri should lose the majority of the forces here for this engagement. He's trying to back his way out, continuing his assault, continuing taking out a couple of shots here and there. Another Harvester going down to half HP. Watchtower on the front line. War Factory as well, which means we're going to get more and more Pitbull production. Looks like 5 bikes are all that remain from that initial assault. A couple joined the rear there at the end. Does look like it's double War Factory. I don't think it's triple yet. No, double War Factory there for Dimitri. Pitbull's moving their way in. Those are definitely going to be a bit of a threat to deal with. Dimitri needs a little more time to build up his forces. Raider Buggy popping out at a pretty good time, absorbing a good number of shots there, which is exactly what it needs to. And, of course, the Pitbulls move their way in. Focus fire is a little bit better here on Senna, but the defender's advantage is still really strong. Majority of those bikes do go down more and more. Join the fray. Production is here. Pitbull's not able to get any of the real shots off that they need on the Harvesters. Not able to get any revenge there for Senna. If he's not careful, this is definitely going to turn around into Dimitri's favor, but Dimitri's taking a lot of losses as well. 2 more Pitbulls join the fray, should tip the scale in his favor. More and more bikes go down left and right. However, Pitbulls are wasting shots on these Raider Buggies, which of course is exactly what Dimitri wants. More and more Pitbulls going to get taken out. Senna just sort of sending them to their doom without any real massive gains. At the very least, he's keeping the tempo in his favor. He's keeping his opponent. He seems to do this quite often where he just produces mass numbers and manages to group them up and manages to watch them out in time. That looks to be something what like Steel Talons does, or what he tries to do. But this is what it should look like. This is what it should look like for a tighter player. Not only does he send his units in, but he also has this really tight macro and micro control. When he moves the units in, he's always constantly aware. He's always watching the mini-map. He's always seeing where his opponent is and what he's doing. One click over here to see if anything sneaky is going down on, which of course is not. Tib Spike getting targeted and going to go down for free. Dimitri not having the forces to contest with him. Pitbulls might be in a bit of danger, though, if they're not careful. They should have the concave, and the reverse move is strong. They are set up better a little in formation. More and more bikes do go down. Pitbulls do finally outnumber all these units, but more and more units here join it. Dimitri stepping things up in the production field, doing a bit better over here for this defense, keeping Senna out, which is not an easy thing to do. Senna's been absolutely hyper-aggressive, and he just seems to continue to lean on you and never lets up. At the same bitrate, higher resolutions will look less detailed, more blurry, but that doesn't explain a black screen. Twitch is the one sending viewers the stream data. Doesn't make sense that it would be a black screen to some and not to others. And I'm not sure it's on OBS's end either. Bike and Buggy moving their way in. Marv Engineering or Reclamator Hub on the front line. Marv gonna pop its way out. Harvester gonna get targeted, going down to half HP, but I'm not sure they can afford that in this assault. Plenty of watchtowers here when dwindling down the numbers of Dimitri. Dimitri in full retreat. Pitbull's just too strong. No real transition other than the Marv here for Senna. Senna not on top of the Juggernauts like he was last time, just happy to get all of these Pitbulls. And I don't see any reason quite yet, but I feel like a couple of tanks would make a pretty big difference. However, he did lose a bunch of them for free, so maybe he's not confident in that. It does look like we did get the upgrade. We did get the mortars here for the Pitbull, so he's going full send into these units. Dimitri sending in a scout to take measure of the numbers of Senna. Marv should be about almost done. There it is, right on cue. Engineer probably being produced, hopefully should be out and ready to go here in a minute. Natural expansion looks like it was developed upon significantly quicker than Senna. Senna popping a scan down, gonna see that he needs to step up his game, but it may not matter because the Marv might tip the scales in his favor, harvesting up those resources, which I believe are less efficient. Like I was saying before, Double Evil, I think that I don't think it's on OBS's end. I know OBS can be weird from time to time, but if it was on OBS's end, it would show up in my recordings, and it's never, not that I've seen, and I haven't sat there and watched every single minute of every single one of my videos, but I've never seen the black screen appear once on my side, so it's got to be on Twitch's end. It's got to be something to do with that, and maybe like how they're capturing, I'm not sure. Bike and Buggy sitting over on the right-hand side, gonna miss the Pitbulls. This might be the perfect opportunity. Actually, if they can catch this MCV, this could tip the scales in his favor, but he's actually absolutely gonna ignore it and go for the old main base, running into those Pitbulls, getting pushed out. Does look like Marv and the other APCs did move their way forward to protect that MCV, thankfully not getting sniped like we have seen in a couple other games. There's the man spam, 3 Hand of Nods out and ready to go, 4 Hand of Nods out and ready to go, running into the APCs. APCs don't have AP ammo, and they're going to have a hard time dealing with those units. Bike and Buggy moving there over the right-hand side. Plenty of Pitbulls going to get destroyed left and right. I think this definitely does favor Dimitri. These bikes, or these Pitbulls and APCs are just not grouped the way they need to. Dimitri needs to follow this up with something because he can catch a lot of these stragglers, but he's not paid attention. He's prepping his buildings there in the background. Dimitri about 2K ahead per minute on the economic fronts. That's definitely going to help him out. He's also going to see that this assault is over here on the left-hand side. Not that there's too much here to defend, but he's going to move the man spam over to the left-hand side either way. And on top of that, he's keeping these slower-moving infantry units sort of exactly where he needs to, moving these units right in mirror with his opponent. Pitbull going down there for free. APC still no AP ammo. Senna having to back his way out despite having a Marv sitting over here. This one scout getting so much value. Seeing everything that Senna has. Splitting up of the Black Hand forces might spell their doom if they're not careful. They do have to back their way up. They should group their forces. Looks like Bike and Buggy and all of his infantry are going to move their way into Senna's base. While Senna does the same over here on the left-hand side, at least Dimitri has a bit of a defense. Senna having to back up his forces entirely. Dimitri not figuring out what target he wants here for these Bike and Buggy. APCs do finally get their AP ammo, so that's nice and out and ready to go. Looks like it's just the 2 war factories here for Senna for the current moment, but his base is about to be in trouble. His forces are kind of split up and all over the place. Bike and Buggy moving back down there over to the south. MCV actually almost getting sniped there, almost walking right into their doom. Marv supporting here, supporting this push. APC's doing a fantastic job, followed up by this Marv. There's the decoy army. Sorry, just taking a drink. Senna actually getting pushed out over here. I thought he had the numbers for this. I thought he had the APCs for this, but he's got to thin down this man spam. There's just so much to deal with, and while this is all going down, he's losing his old main base. This might be Dimitri's redemption arc. Marv already down to half HP, no Redeemer needed. Construction Yard going down to half HP. Might get destroyed here rather soon. And it looks like not only are they killing the Construction Yard, but they're going to kill the Marv just about the same time. Marv goes down. Construction Yard goes down. And that might spell the doom for Senna. Senna losing his base in the background there, as well as the bike and buggy come in for the final hammer and anvil. Going for those exposed harvesters. There goes all the armor. There goes the Construction Yard. There goes the Marv. And probably soon, there goes Senna. There's the fire cell there in the background, and he calls in the GG. Dimitri getting a much-deserved point. Is this going to go all the way to match point? It's hard to tell. Senna's going to have to tighten it up. Dimitri has finally come online. He's finally drank his coffee and is ready to go. But can he maintain it in round number 4? He needs to win every single match going forward to continue. Round number 4 is on Atacama Road. Over in the top left-hand side of the map, we have Dimitri making his first change to GDI. His opponent for the moment in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, still playing the yellow, still playing the GDI. This is Senna. Senna into Dimitri. Seems to be favoring Senna for the moment. Senna being a bit more solid than Dimitri, but you can't count him out just quite yet. I think, like I said before, Senna's a bit more practiced, but he's just as capable of making mistakes. He's just as capable of suffering from tilt as everyone else. And those will be contributing factors in these fights. Dimitri popping out a couple of foxholes on the left and right-hand side, getting some pretty good vision, getting some pretty good choke points set up here for him. Senna's still finding a way to make their way through, but it's going to make them waste a little bit more time and have to go even further around. Engineer having difficulties grabbing the tip spike. There we go. Does finally grab it there for Dimitri. Second refinery on the way, probably for both players. There it is, right on cue. Third harvester is out, followed soon by a fourth. There it is. Both players doing a little bit better there on their openers. Because I'm pretty sure that's the reason why some viewers get black screen. I mean, I guess that could make sense. It seems to go away, except for with Steel Talon. Rifleman squads moving in for the scout. Senna moving his way into Dimitri, seeing what he is up to. This is going to turn into a bit of a mirror match. I don't think I've seen a mirror match yet in Chrono Clash between two GDI primary factions. Now, I think we did see Zocom versus Steel Talons a few times, but this is the first appearance of GDI versus GDI. I also don't think we've seen Nod versus Nod. I don't think we've seen a lot of Nod in general. Everybody seems to be favoring Black Han or Marked of Kane. There's been a little bit of Nod here and there, but I wonder if they're a little bit weaker in this patch, or if it just happens that the players aren't quite as practiced with them. Could go either way. Fifth Harvester is, that's actually Sixth Harvester is out. Gonna join Senna's refinery over here. Looks like Dimitri's actually a little bit ahead for the refineries and his Harvester as well. Third and fourth Harvester joining that natural expansion for Senna. Pitbull moving its way in, Pitbull running directly into a watchtower. Some of these more skilled players seem to always have a watchtower out and ready to go, so maybe that's a note for some of the other players to continue to prep those deals, and it looks like that is indeed what Dimitri has. And same thing with Senna. They've always got those watchtowers ready to go, already queued up. They haven't popped them down, but they're ready for the defense like they should be. Pitbulls and rocket squads for Senna over on the left-hand side. Dimitri grouping his forces on the right-hand side. APCs out with rocket ammo, or with rockets. No AP ammo just quite yet. Not even sure we built the facility for it. Nope, that is not the case. No teching up yet for Senna either. Looks like it's just going to be pure build power. A couple of scouts finally going down. No one grabbing too much here in the center. Dimitri does have a foxhole here for the scout. He can see what is out and ready to go. Senna finally looking for something to snack on, and I'm not sure Dimitri is ready for it because the majority of the Dimitri's forces are over on the right-hand side, despite him seeing that. I take it back. A couple of Pitbulls here for the defense are going to see the forces of his opponent. Rockets can do a good amount of damage into them. Watchtower there on the front line does get deployed for Dimitri, while Dimitri groups his forces on this right-hand side. It looks like each one of these APCs have a couple of rocket squads inside of them, so they should be able to hurt just about everything on this side. APCs moving their way in. Tanks here for the defense. Those tanks should make a difference in conjunction with these watchtowers. One APC going down. Units getting deployed there at the end. A couple of reinforcements getting deployed somewhere. Looks like right there for Dimitri. Dimitri prepping for a defense, but Senna's not over there. Senna is prepping his own defense, grouping up his tanks. Sending a couple of his Pitbulls sort of into their doom. Rifleman squad sort of taking free shots off of, but I'm not sure he cares too much. Dimitri being the first to move on to his natural expansion. If he's not careful, though, he could lose this MCV. Guess that is the third expansion. Airfield and command post here for Senna, diving pretty deeply into these hammerheads. Engagement really has begun over on the right-hand side as Pitbull does manage to engage all of these Predator tanks, but Predator tanks are going to be so strong. Does look like slingshots are going to engage the opponent's hammerheads. So that means there's an airfield in the background there for Dimitri as well. APC is going to go down, are going to go for these harvesters and try to take as much of them as they can with them. But everywhere they go, there is anti-air somewhere. Senna not finding the purchases that he quite wants, losing a hammerhead on the retreat, but grouping more and more with them. This is a staggering number of hammerheads for Dimitri. He's playing more like a... Senna. He's playing more like a Red Alert player, I feel. Hammerheads meeting Hammerhead. Dimitri moving his forces into the center of the map while he sets up that natural expansion. If he's not careful, Senna's gonna lose this one. Senna's in a bit of a tough spot here. Plenty of AA batteries, though. Senna's definitely prepping for the assault over on the left-hand side. He might be attacking on the right and might want this attack to happen over on the left-hand side. He is really set up for it. APCs do have their AP ammo. Pitbull's moving their way in, going for the throat, going for the harvesters, but the same can be said over on Dimitri's side. I think Dimitri might have the advantage. They've been able to destroy more harvesters, more and more hammerheads going down. There's the fire cell there for Dimitri as he sells off all of the refinery and everything on that side. Firehawks taking more damage or dealing more damage there to Dimitri. Dimitri actually losing the majority of his forces in this engagement. Boa was, it looks like he only got one harvester. Not sure that is worth it. Slingshot going down. Senna continuing his assault, going for the rush, trying to kill these rocket squads. It looks like it was double barracks there in the background with rocket squads, and it does seem to have delayed Senna. It does seem to have destroyed the majority of center. Hammerheads moving their way in, putting the final nail in the coffin, but it doesn't matter because the AA batteries here should be here to clear up these units. No tungsten shells or anything like that just quite yet, but 3 AA batteries were plenty powerful enough. Senna's hammerheads running into those Pitbulls, getting destroyed. Unfortunately for them. Actually, no. Hammerheads managed to survive that assault. Senna sending a harvester off to its doom. At the very least, he was able to scout first. Marv is out. I don't think Dimitri has one ready going, selling off the airfield there in the background. Senna also hasn't moved into his natural expansion. He is his third expansion. He is slowly harvesting it, though, but it's long distance harvesting, which is going to sting. Finally moving his MCV over there and prepping an attack over here. Senna being the first to grab a couple of Juggernauts, and it looks like the transition is going to be into Mammoth Tank. Marv moving its way forward, but Marv doesn't have too much in it just quite yet. A couple of Zone Troopers, and it will definitely help. Juggernauts taking shots off on the Watchtowers. Rifleman Squad versus Rifleman Squad. EMP'd over here for the Marv. Marv getting close to, no, actually not getting close to quite to half HP. Another Mammoth Tank getting EMP'd by these grenade squads. And it looks like Dimitri might actually be able to hold off all of these forces just with the grenade squads and a couple of units here and there. Marv getting close down to half HP. More and more EMPs popping off from these EMP squads over and over. Mammoth Tank going down to half HP. Marv now down to half HP. No engineer inside of the Marv just quite yet. Mammoth Tank getting close to getting taken out. Another EMP there for the Marv. Marv just absolutely getting caught over here. This is going to be really unfortunate for Senna. He can't afford to lose this. He wanted to Marv his resources, but instead he lost to Marv. Marv going down. Mammoth Tank going down. Juggernauts are in danger. Fantastic defense there from Senna, or from Dimitri, but it doesn't matter because over on the left-hand side, it looks like Senna's been doing a pretty decent push. It does look like Dimitri had to force to sell off a couple of those units, and he's not harvesting this facility like he needs to, while his opponent is actually able to harvest off a couple of things here and there. It says there's a purple dot on the map. I don't know what force is over here. Kind of hard to tell. APCs and rocket squads are able to take out the old main base there for Dimitri, but there wasn't a crazy amount there, and he was able to sell off most of it. It looks like he's weirdly going a good amount of man spam. GDI into GDI, it seems like man spam might be the way to go. Firehawk sitting here on the defense. Senna still has them out and ready to go, which means he can start taking pot shots off at this base. There's only one AA battery there, but I think these might be ready for anti-air. Dimitri grabbing a much-needed infusion of blue Tiberium. It looks like he's going to grab 3 harvesters if Senna lets him. Senna moving a couple of scouts in, and it looks like Dimitri's finally got a good economy set up over on this side. AA battery here to absorb some of the shots there from the rifleman squads as he moves his infantry over on the right-hand side. If we look at the economy, Dimitri's actually up, surprisingly. Probably those infusions of the blue Tiberium, and there's still enough here for at least another load. Senna's still licking his wounds. He does have the Juggernauts from the previous fights. Does have his T3 still. He did pop his Marv up and lost it, and so he's probably behind on what's on the field. And his opponent's only been able to produce cheap units from the barracks so far. Orca's taking a couple of shots off at the AA battery going down to half HP as the Firehawks move their way in. Looks like maybe they went for that watchtower. No, the Juggernauts are actually going to go for the watchtower instead. Hammerhead's moving their way in. AA batteries on the left and on the right. Harvester's getting targeted. One Harvester getting close to going down. Might just... Nope, it does not take it out whatsoever. AA battery does go down on the right-hand side. AA battery on the left-hand side does get hurt. Dimitri calling in a couple of reinforcements. Juggernauts here in the background to continue to deal damage to these units. The Juggernauts, I think, are going to be the real linchpin here. Dimitri needs this win if he's going to continue on in this tournament. He's in danger, that is for sure. Juggernaut's now in danger, having to worry about all of these units, all of this armor going forward. If I was Dimitri, I'd definitely be focusing him down. That's going to be a primary threat to go with. Maybe he doesn't want to lose his units. He does have a barracks there on the front line. He does have an AA battery on the front line, but more and more Hammerheads continue to move their way in. One Juggernaut does finally go down. Husk gets targeted. One gets down to half HP. Might get taken down. It does get destroyed right there, right at the end, and it looks like we have a heroic rocket squad there for Dimitri. Not surprising with the numbers he has. More and more APCs joining the fray, and now Dimitri's going to try and put the hurt on Senna, doing a bit of a base rush. This could backfire, but this will make his supply lines just a little bit shorter, especially if you get a war factory or not a hand of nod, or a barracks there on the front line. Senna sending an APC forward for a little bit of scout. Senna not building a Marv, actually probably building a whole bunch of APCs from that Reclamator hub. Looks like it's going to be barracks there on the front line. Construction yard is here to stay. Juggernaut getting grabbed. That's a good snipe there for him to take with that engineer. Second Husk did get destroyed, it looks like, at some point. Selling off of the barracks there in the background. Senna mostly chewed through his Tiberium field, it looks like. Dimitri having some at his old main and still having a good amount over here. They might be close there in those numbers. Firehawks moving their way forward. No, not Firehawks. Orcas doing the one click on the barracks, but they're going to see everything that his opponent has here, which, of course, was the goal for him. Pitbull's moving in on Senna. Senna absolutely undefended. He cannot afford these losses here, but it looks like the Pitbulls are getting absolutely forgot about. Not sure what he's doing. This is his opportunity to try to get some much needed revenge. Harvester's finally getting targeted there. Senna might lose a little bit more of a lifeline. He can't afford these losses right before this big fight. Harvester after Harvester going to get taken down. Not sure what both players are looking at, but they're definitely not paying attention to what they can see. Harvesters for Senna grabbing blue Tiberium there in the center. Watchtower finally getting deployed. Hammerheads finally moving their way in, but if they're not careful, they will go from predator to prey. Looks like for some reason Dimitri's moving all of his forces back. Maybe expecting assault over on the left-hand side. Oh, no, it looks like he doesn't want to deal with the 4 Juggernauts right there on the front lawn, so he decides to bring everything back. Still not sure why he's moving everything here. Just catching 2 Firehawks won't really be worth the moving of your entire formation. Looks like one Harvester did survive with just barely any HP. Dimitri continuing his march over on the left-hand side, completely moving around. A couple of Juggernauts here for the defense for Dimitri. Juggernauts moving over on the left-hand side for Senna. APCs with AP ammo out and ready to go. Same can be said for Dimitri. Watchtower is going to do a good number on this man spam. Watchtower's finally getting targeted, but another one's going to pop it down just as soon as that one goes down. Firehawk's taking a couple of shots off on the man spam, actually getting a couple of really good ones. Getting a good EMP out on a couple of these APCs. This might spell the doom for Dimitri. His forces are split, and he's lost so much there. Almost anywhere Senna goes, he should manage to get a couple of really good kills. These APCs are going to get the crush from on these infantry. Infantry after infantry is going to get taken down. APCs taking a couple of losses here and there, but the majority of the rocket squads are down as well. That doesn't mean when these APCs run into these other APCs, they're going to have a bit of damage on them before the fight even begins. Dimitri having a long-distance harvest his old main base. We take a look at the economy. It looks like Senna has a 2K lead, at least for the moment, and has almost 10K more in the bank of overall resources. And I think he's got more on the field. Right now, it looks like he definitely has numbers advantage. And he's got plenty of punching power with those Juggernauts. See if I can get away with hydrating. Hey, I managed it. Senna happy to move over there on the left-hand side, probably suspecting correctly so far that that is where Dimitri is the most undefended. Harvester's going down for free. That's going to be unfortunate for him because he's already behind on resources. He's now down to 8.6K per minute. Losing that additional Harvester is definitely going to sting. Selling off of the refinery there. Probably worth selling off one of these refineries as well. Space Command uplink inside the base. Command post getting targeted. As well as the majority of the rest of this base. Dimitri not sitting idly by, moving a couple of mammoth tanks with railguns into Senna's base. Senna continuing his assault over on the left-hand side, still focusing on these structures, buying Dimitri just a little bit of time. Dimitri a little bit awkward in his move forward, can't figure out where he wants to place his units. Hammerhead going down there for Senna. Senna continuing his march over there on the north. No real response yet from Dimitri. Dimitri's going to be completely exposed. He does have to back off all of his forces, including his APCs. Selling off of the airfield. Looks like there's only... No, there's 2 war factories left. So he's got production, but that might be just about it. Marv out. Second Marv out there for Senna. Senna may have lost the first one, but he's definitely made it up for it in the economy. He's had plenty to replace it. APC is getting destroyed over here for Senna in the northern sector. Senna's still not engaging. No player really wanting to commit to anything too crazy. Although I think Senna has the advantage. Harvester going down for free there in the center. And it looks like maybe Senna's just trying to starve out his opponent while he continues to pad his forces. He's really boxed him in a corner. Dimitri doesn't really have anywhere to go. He might win this APC fight, but it doesn't look like Senna wants to really engage with it. He just wants to continue his chokehold on the economy there for Dimitri. The longer this game goes, the longer this hold lasts, the longer this siege lasts, the less and less resources he's going to have, the more and more starved he's going to get in general. He does have his... No. He does not have any Tiberium spikes. So yeah, that looks like that's going to be the plan there entirely for Senna. This is full siege mode. And I don't see how Dimitri is going to be able to break through this sector over here. Just running into all of these Juggernauts is going to be so painful to deal with. Marv moving his way forward to absorb most of the shots. APC versus APC. But the concave is much stronger over here for Senna. Senna can focus fire while Dimitri's just sending his units in to their doom. But I'm not sure Senna really cares too much because the real engagement has begun over there. Infantry moving their way in to help pad out these stats. And so many Juggernauts. I don't see any way for Dimitri to come back from this. The fat lady has definitely sung for Dimitri, but it doesn't matter because Dimitri has his headphones on and he can't hear her. He does call in the GG once he sees all of the juggernauts. There's just absolutely no way to deal with all that. A couple of rocket squads there in the background as well to add insult to injury. That does mean Dimitri, I believe, gets knocked out of this tournament, or at least he has a chance to come back in the redemption arc, in the redemption brackets. Either way, that's it for, I believe that was match number 2. Match number 2, round 1, takes place on Tiki Turmoil. Starts over in the top right-hand corner of the map, rocking the yellow, playing the GDI. This is Bart Jones. His opponent from the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing the pink in the marked of Kane. Give it up for Svensson. Svensson into Bart Jones. Svensson has been doing quite well in the tournament, I feel. A couple of mistakes here and there. Bart Jones has been doing pretty good too, but he did lose to Phoenix, I believe, a little bit further back. So that's definitely got a sting, but from what I understand from talking to Cybert, Phoenix, I guess, is one of these older players, so he's probably a bit more practiced. Bart Jones has really just come into his own, I believe, relatively recently, probably about the same time I started casting overall. Quick item of note, Tiki Turmoil is served by Mammoth Melts. Victory flavored, Tiberium charred, and probably not FDA approved. Svensson taking a couple of shots off on the watchtower, but Bart Jones not carrying too much. However, losing that War Factory to EMP, or not losing it, but having it getting stunned by that EMP is going to be a bit annoying. Nothing really to write home about. If I check the economy, it looks like Bart Jones is about 600 ahead on that economic front. Scouts for Bart Jones moving their way into the Marked of Kane's base, which is going to be important to keep an eye on. That seems to be GDI's counter in general to Nod, is getting those foxholes in so they can see whatever transitions, see that Operations Center if it pops out. Looks like we've got 4 harvesters, probably with a 5th one on the way there for Svensson. Same thing with Bart Jones, but I think his harvester might be a little bit... Nope, it looks like it's going to be Pitbull instead. Bart Jones may be wanting to go for a little bit of harassment here in a minute. Less economy, more harassment. Looks like it's going to be 3 Pitbulls and 1 APC with a Rifleman squad inside of them, probably to deal with rocket squads there for Svensson. Svensson might be in a bit of danger, and looks like, no, he's actually got a secondary War Factory. He's going into more production. Looks like he's going to produce a couple of Bike and Buggy, but will they be ready in time to deal with the Pitbulls making their way across the map for Bart Jones? Natural expansion being developed upon a little bit earlier than his opponent, because his opponent grabbed that War Factory, so he's going to be a bit behind on that refinery. Refinery's still pretty far behind. Bike and Buggy developing over here. Looks like we finally get 3 bikes, but it looks like the Pitbulls do outnumber them and definitely out-damage them, especially once one goes down. A second one does go down. If they're not careful, they're going to run into a little bit of problem here. Pitbulls having to reverse move their out, but Bart Jones does group them up with a couple more forces, tightening up his formation here. APC absorbing some of the shots. Could still go back and forward either way. Scouts moving in to see what is sitting over there. Bart Jones completely retreating, not wanting that fight really at all. Maybe going for a more economic play so far. And it looks like he is about 500 ahead, so may not be the worst thing. Not sure if Svensson is more of a traditional player or more of a rush player. Kind of seems to be all over the place with his build style. 5 bikes out to deal a good number of damage to that APC and get it taken out rather quickly. Pitbulls did manage to survive, and they are going to be here for the defense. Command post there on the front line. Laser fence to protect it there for Bart Jones. Maybe expecting more assaults over on this side. That will give those Pitbulls something else to shoot, those attack bikes, something else to shoot at when they make their way in. Bart Jones having about a K lead per minute on his opponent. That will make an impact. Airfield sitting over there. Looks like it's going to be immediate airfield. Grabbing a couple of Rifleman squads inside an ox cart. Maybe going for a little bit of a scout. Not sure what the plan is for that. Wouldn't be a bad idea to have that fast-moving scout. Oh, it looks like it's going to be an engineer. an engineer to grab that defensive tower, freeing up a little bit of space over here for Bart Jones to maneuver. Bike and Buggy moving their way over on the right-hand side. Pitbull's here for the defense. It looks like this is going to be a hard nut to crack, but this is a lot of Bike and Buggy. A couple more reinforcements getting deployed there in the background is going to scare off Seven Sun. Svensson. Jeez, words are hard. Scaring off Svensson. Pitbull's continuing their assault, but they're wasting shots on these Raider buggies, which is not what they need to do. AP ammo for the APCs in the background should help even things up just a little bit. There's the mine drop, but the bikes are not going to take the bait. Majority of the Raider buggies do go down, but that's their entire purpose. A couple of bikes running into a few of those mines. Upgrade there in the background for the Pitbulls. Pitbulls getting that mortar upgrade. Going to be much better at stationary targets, which means those Bike and Buggy need to be on the move even more so. Just getting caught by one of those mortars will be devastating for any one of these units, any one of those Bike and Buggy. T3 out for Svensson. Looks like he's going to go for a little bit of early teching up. Why not? No Scorpion tanks for him. He's happy with his Bike and Buggy, and looks like he's going to transition rather quickly. Bart Jones sending a couple of scouts over his opponent's base, seeing that the T3 is there, seeing that there's a lot there. Svensson hasn't moved into his natural expansion, into his third expansion, I should say, just quite yet. I guess second expansion, third field. Zone Troopers out on the front line. Bart Jones setting up his third expansion. Oxcart finally going down, but Bart Jones only wanted it for a little bit of scouting. APCs and Hammerheads going to go for the easy target, going to go for that Tiberium Spike. I don't think this game will go late, but if it does, that will be to Bart Jones's benefit. Especially because he already has, I guess not anymore. Svensson did finally catch up on the economic fronts. He's a bit behind on setting up this natural expansion, while Bart Jones already has, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 harvesters, weirdly enough. Maybe he miscalculated, and 2 refineries. We do have the T3 here for Bart Jones. Probably going to see a Reclamator hug, I was imagine. Actually, Bike and Buggy over here on the north side. Svensson almost sneaking one past me, but definitely not sneaking it past Bart Jones. Bart Jones already having his APCs and Pitbulls here, full of defense, out and ready to go. First refinery is out for Svensson. Avatars moving their way forward. Looks like there's 4 of them here to do plenty of damage. Looks like that was entirely just meant to be a distraction. Bart Jones not going to sit idly by, is actually going to move in for an assault of his own over on the left-hand side. Tip Troopers making their way forward. Does look like those Zone Troopers did get taken down. AA Battery going to get taken down. Going down to half HP. Avatars killing a power plant there almost for free. No real response on this side, but Bart Jones doesn't care because he's going for the construction yard of Svensson. Svensson is in trouble. He doesn't have enough there to stop all of this. Spectre's going to get targeted, but it doesn't matter because that MCV is gone. That MCV is destroyed, and he can't afford that. He can't afford to lose that natural expansion, so he throws in the towel. He conserves his energy to do better in the next round. He's got to be on his A game to fight somebody like Bart Jones. Give me one moment as we boot up round number 2. We have moved on to Toxicity. Over the top right-hand corner of the map, still hanging on to his GDI, we have Bart Jones in the yellow. Svensson making his first change, sticking with his pink, though, has gone to, it looks like, Skrin. And it looks like he's going to start off with a little bit of a rush here. He wasn't able to really do too much with the long game with the traditional build, so he's trying to mix things up. And it looks like he's got 4 in the south and 4 in the north, with a couple of buzzer squads there for not only a little bit of scouting, but to deal with the rifleman squads when they deal. Bart Jones doesn't know it just quite yet, but they haven't passed the halfway point. Svensson may not be doing it all in, but that is definitely going to be costly to pump those out this early in the game. However, they can get some really, really good gains if they play their cards right. And Bart Jones still doesn't see this coming. Buzzer squad's going for those units there in the north. Tib Spike going to get taken down. It looks like Svensson's going for the soft target, going for the easy target, going for these Tib Spikes. APC there on the front line. Watchtower there on the front line. Does look like it's going to go down to about half HP. The one in the south should go down. Rifleman squad's targeting the units. Buzzer squad's not able to get their way in. Svensson in full retreat there in the north, but at the very least is going to be able to get this Tiberium Spike. Once again, that'll be decent if this goes into a later game, but it doesn't look like Bart Jones has really let those go too far into a late game. And he's one of those players that constantly comes back no matter how hard you hit him. Rifleman Squad ranks up. Rifleman Squad goes down, but they're delaying and they're buying time for Bart Jones. Disintegrators going down without much purchase. It looks like they were only able to get one of the Tiberium spikes. Bart Jones, despite that, though, is about 400 ahead on the economy. Moving into his natural expansion, Svensson's already popped his drone ship down. Does look like refinery's about halfway there for Bart Jones, which means Svensson's going to be just a little bit behind. 1, 2, 3, 4 harvesters so far only there for Svensson. That's definitely going to make a bit of an impact. Bart Jones moving a couple of scouts over, trying to see what his opponent is up to, see if there is going to be a follow-up to those shenanigans. Refinery out for Bart, and refinery getting powered down for Bart just as quickly. Refinery finally here for Svensson. Hitting our first real lull for the battle. APCs slowly, lazily being produced. Bart Jones probably knowing that if he sticks with his economy, that he can beat Svensson because of that waste early on, but only time will tell. No second refinery just quite yet for Bart Jones, so he's not too terribly far ahead. And on the numbers, it looks like Svensson's still keeping in pretty good pacing with him. APC moving its way forward, dealing a little bit of damage to the shielded harvester. Shardwalker moving its way in. That should be enough to deal with it, but if not careful, the APC can get destroyed. Mine drop popping its way down there for Bart Jones. Inside that field, harvester going to take a couple of shots there for free, but it's only going to kill the shield. Most importantly, it's going to deal a bit of damage there to the Shardwalkers, which will help. I think Shardwalkers might actually be a little bit faster. Another APC moving its way in. This one does have rockets in it. Should fare a bit better as one APC does go down, followed by a Shardwalker. Mine drop does pop its way out. Another Shardwalker going down to half HP. Buzzer Squad here on the front line, but that's only going to be able to do too much or so much in these APCs. APCs having those guns on top are going to be pretty good at dealing with that as another Shardwalker goes down for Svensson. Svensson can't really afford these losses because it looks like Bart Jones is going to continue adding to his forces. Buzzer Hive going down, destroying those buzzers just as quickly as they pop their way up. Shardwalkers both at half HP due to some of the splash damage. Devourer tanks here not charged up, which means they're not going to be able to do too much damage to these units, but it might be enough to kill a couple of the APCs. Reinforcements there on the front line. Svensson has a chance to catch them if he's paying attention, but it doesn't look like he is. Bart Jones choosing a full retreat for the current moment. And actually, Bart Jones got a little bit of revenge here. I didn't notice that. He grabbed the Tiberium spike for his opponent. So that gain that Svensson got early on at destroying that Tib spike hasn't really bought him too much. And Bart Jones has been grabbing blue Tiberium here in the center. None of these Devourer tanks have really grabbed anything. Maybe they're trying to make their way into their opponent's base to recharge. They do grab a bit of blue Tiberium, and actually the majority of them do fill up except for 3 over here in the back. Nope, they're actually completely full now. All right, so they wanted to stop by the blue Tiberium. I feel like that's a bit of a waste, but maybe Svensson knows something I don't. Orca's moving their way in, focusing on not only the Shardwalkers, but also getting good splash damage on this Devourer tank. Devourer tanks are in danger, but they do a lot of damage, especially while they are charged. As APC after APC goes down, Warp Factory going to go down here. Bart Jones might be a bit of trouble, but he's already teched up. He's already got a Sonic Emitter, which is going to do plenty of damage to these units, especially if they're not paying attention. They do finally target it, but it might be too little late. Too little too late. Sonic Emitter doing a good number of damage to those units. Juggernaut here in the background. Bart Jones seems to have a transition, but he's still in danger. He's still in trouble. Body block there for the power plant, giving the Juggernaut more time to deal damage. Devourer tanks killing unit left and right, but most importantly, they need to move forward. They need to get that Juggernaut. The Juggernaut's going to be the primary problem. Juggernaut killing Devourer tank after Devourer tank. Sonic Emitter on the front line once again, destroying more of these Shardwalkers, destroying more of the forces, and actually destroying what hope Svensson had of winning. Bart Jones now has a 2-0 lead on Svensson. Svensson is in danger. Bart Jones not making it easy for his opponent whatsoever. Let's see if he can continue it up. So far, he's been pretty solid, but one mistake can spell his doom, and Svensson can get a reverse sweep if he is not only lucky, but skilled as well. Our potential match point is here on Tournament Odyssey. Svensson needs to be careful here, even though Svensson does play this map as well. I believe this is the map that Bart Jones practiced against Bike Rush over and over, so he should be quite familiar with this map overall. He should be pretty comfortable. Not that most players aren't comfortable with this map. This is a good map to practice on because of its regularity, but I think Bart Jones is probably a bit more practiced than Svensson. Svensson's still a pretty solid player, does have an opportunity to turn things around, and that assault was going really well for him, but the problem was dealing with those Juggernauts. Juggernauts popped in right at the right time. Bart Jones just had the perfect transition there for the defense. A lesser player would have crumbled there to Svensson, but Bart Jones was not that lesser player. Scouts from both sides moving their way in. It looks like Bart Jones has got full send into all of these rifleman squads. He's got 4 out and ready to go. I wonder if he's going to try something cheeky early on. Did forget to mention, it looks like Bart Jones sticking with his yellow and sticking with his GDI, his opponent going Zocom. Maybe trying to get an early airfield out. Hard to tell what he's got so far. Scout does move its way into Bart Jones's base. Just going to see that that transition is being moved upon. Svensson has not done the same. Bart Jones splitting up his rifleman squads, looking for maybe something tasty to snack on. If they all start firing at this power plant, they should be able to do quite a good number, and it looks like they're going to deploy their foxholes rather quickly and not really figure out what they're going to go for. There we go. Finally going for the power plant. Power plant should go down pretty quickly there with 3 rifleman squads just absolutely unloading it, unless he can get a pit bull or a couple of rocket squads to flush those units out. But it'll probably be some time before that happens. Bart Jones has 5 harvesters, 2 refineries in his main base. I'm sure followed by Senna. Looks like, yeah, Senna does have the same thing. Rocket harvesters moving their way over to the natural expansion there for Svensson. Svensson a little bit ahead on that at the very least. But that's because Bart Jones is producing a healthy number of these APCs. He did find great purchase in them, and so maybe he's hoping to find the same as well. Power plant finally going down to half HP, but the tanks here should be able to mop this up. Give me 1 second, trying to mute my phone. Scouts finally going down here for Bart Jones, but not before taking down a power plant to less than half HP. Rocket squads in APC is going to start dealing their harassment on top of Svensson. Svensson already in a little bit of danger. Harvester going down to half HP. Rifleman squads moving their way in, but that's not really going to be able to do anything. Harvester does get taken down. Svensson really can't afford that too much. Armory popping its way down, building something there in the background. Rocket squad popping its way out and going to get destroyed just as quickly. Mine drop there for the defense. Double mine drop there for the defense. Tanks might run directly into that. They can't afford to take that free damage, and indeed they do take it as one of them goes down to half HP. 2 of them down to half HP. One of them even closer. Those APCs finding a great soft spot there to hit on Svensson. Svensson trying to go on the attack. Might regret that, though, because the APCs have made their way back. Svensson indeed moving his way into the center of the map, but it's going to cost him a rocket harvester on his natural expansion. Svensson not caring whatsoever, is going full send into Bart, trying to get the tempo in his favor, but he still has absolutely nothing here on the defense. There's the upgrade. It looks like the upgrade was going to be these Tibfield troopers selling off of the barracks. Rifleman squads with their little suits on here, ready to go. Svensson going full send. Svensson putting everything into this assault, but Bart Jones is ready for it. Watchtower there on the front line, barracks there on the front line, and a couple of tanks here for the defense as well. While he continues his assault over here on the south, Svensson just trying everything he can, throwing everything absolutely he can at the wall, desperately trying to get a win on Bart Jones, and it might cost him the game if he's not careful. More and more reinforcements are going to join the fray. A defensive tower here on the front line, softening up a couple of these targets. However, Svensson does finally move his MCV in over here, and he's not too far behind on the economy just quite yet. He did lose his entire natural expansion there in the background, and there it is. He's thrown in the towel. He's lost too much to Bart Jones to continue. Bart Jones winning with a 3-0 lead. Hopefully the games going forward aren't quite as much as a sweep as that. Svensson did try his hardest, and he didn't do the worst, but Bart Jones, you really got to be on your A game in order to knock him off his pedestal. Give us one moment as match number 3, round 1 boots up. Welcome to Tournament LA. Starts over on the top side of the map, rocking the orange, playing the scrin. This is Geo Panapai. I'm gonna call him Geo. I'm probably butchered that. Over in the bottom sector of the map, rocking the green, playing the nod. This is Peter. Two more unknown players going blow for blow in the tournament. Hopefully we get to see a bit more from Peter. He has been shaping up a little bit more in the tournament and has been doing a bit better. So it's nice to see how he's been able to do against maybe people on his skill level. He unfortunately went against some higher level players, which he just wasn't able to get what I feel was more of a fair match. But I believe everyone is set up sort of kind of random. Peter developing his natural expansion, followed quickly behind by Geo. Quick item of note, Tournament LA is brought to you by Command Cheese. Aged in engine heat, ration-packed, and tough enough to scare off Nod. Development of the drone ship happens rather quickly there for Geo. Construction yard moving its way over to that natural expansion as well. Nothing real crazy just quite yet. Typically, you don't get to see anything real crazy from Scrin, but Master Leaf has proved me wrong, and a couple other players have proved me wrong with those Descent Rush. Geo being the first to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium here in the south, or in the center. A couple of scouts have been popping their way over to Geo's side by Peter. Looks like we've got 4 harvesters, 2 refineries, 5 harvesters there for Peter. 1, 2, 3, 4 harvesters there for Geo. So Geo may be a little bit behind on those harvesters, but maybe that's where that one went. It went for the blue Tiberium instead, which will be worth the trip, especially if it gets a full load. Scorpion tanks are going to be out here for Peter. That seems to be part of the course for him. Seeker tanks should be here for the defense, and they should do quite well into this if they don't waste all their shots on the Raider buggies. And indeed, they immediately focus on the Scorpion tanks like they should. However, another Scorpion tank does join the fray. Raider buggy continuing its assault, trying to chase down these Seeker tanks, but Seeker tanks pretty good on the reverse move, getting a couple of free little bits of damage off there. Scorpion tanks getting pushed out of the center of the map. Peter just sort of buying some time, wasting a little bit of resources maybe there. Not losing too much, though. Actually, I don't think he lost anything in that little engagement. He wasn't able to grab blue Tiberium, which is unfortunate, but it's not the worst thing for him. Peter needs to build a couple of more Scorpions, though, if he's going to contest with all of these Seeker tanks. Seeker tanks making their way down to the center of the map as Geo continues his assault. Looks like it's going to be mass Seeker tanks here for Geo. Peter needs to get those numbers up just a little bit more, and indeed he does have a couple more. He needs to get some scouting out as well to see what's coming. He's split up his defenses, at least for the moment, but he's got a healthy number of these Scorpion tanks. He should see that this assault is ongoing and that there's Seeker tanks there on his front doorstep. Geo being pretty on the spot about grabbing this Tiberium. Peter moving his way forward, maybe not into a fight that he wants just quite yet. Not sure if he knows this, but I think he really wants to fight a defensive fight, especially with the shields popping up right there for Geo. Peter grabbing an operations center already, hopefully trying to get a flame tank out, I think. Shielded Seeker tanks doing quite the number on Peter's forces. Peter needs to be careful. Peter does have a couple of Scorpion tanks, and they do finally group the majority of the forces, and now it looks like Geo might be on his back foot. Shields finally going down there for the Seeker tanks. Assault beginning in earnest. Focus fire here. Concave is better there for, I believe, for Peter. I believe he definitely could have won that assault there. He did back off there at the end, which might cost him, because I think the Seeker tanks do outrange them, but the damage is going to be here. The numbers are definitely here, forcing Geo completely out of the center of the map, moving the majority of his Seeker tanks into the grave. Only 5 or 6 of them are remaining, and Peter's continuing the assault. He's not letting up whatsoever. He's not going to try to let those units get away at all. Mechapede here to join the fray. That could tip the balance in their scale, especially because there's 3 of them right here, but it's all going to depend on that microing. Scorpion tank going to get destroyed. Geo already having the transition over here ready for Peter. Peter's going to have to transition for those Mechapedes. Maybe a couple of bikes or rocket squads or something like that could tip the scales, but only time will tell. Seeker tanks back in their way out. Scorpion tanks sort of in and up precarious spot as the Mechapedes move their way in, looking for greener pastures. There is the upgrade there for the Scorpion tanks. They're going to be a bit more armorful, but it doesn't matter if they cannot hit the head of that. 1 does finally go down. 2 does go down. That's going to be really costly there for Geo. Obelisk Light on the front line definitely is going to be something for that unit to deal with. He does manage to escape it just barely. Obelisk Light getting teased there, not able to get off the damage that it needs. At the very least, he is getting a bit of scouting, and Geo is keeping Peter inside of his base. Scorpion Tank going to be good in, or sorry, not Scorpion Tank, Tripod going to be good into all of those Scorpion Tanks. Peter maybe not paid attention to his forces, moving 3 Harvesters into his opponent's base. At the very least, they're going to act as a little bit scouting. Mechapede going down over on the left-hand side. Tripod moving its way forward, taking a couple of shots off on the Scorpion Tank. Scorpion Tank getting targeted. Scorpion Tank going to go down here in a minute, but the War Factory's trying everything it can to keep keep itself alive. This Tripod is isolated. It looks like it's finally going to get a couple more reinforcements. MCV getting scouted over here by Peter. Peter losing this is a colossal mistake. That's going to be extremely unfortunate. All of those gains might go down right down the tube, but Geo's not finishing the assault. Looks like he thought maybe he killed it. Peter is inside his base, so that is one reason, but he needs to kill that as quickly as possible. He doesn't need to get the kill. Couple of units do move their way forward. Doesn't look there's going to be another upgrade. Those laser capacitors there for the Scorpion Tanks could tip the scale. If he can destroy most of this natural expansion, it would make up for the loss of that MCV. Tripod just absolutely walking over these Scorpion Tanks. Scorpion Tanks trying to look desperately for some Harvesters to kill. A little bit faster here on the uptake. Gonna go for the Tripod. The Tripod just does too much damage to it. A couple Scorpion Tanks sitting over there on the left-hand side. Drone ship, unscouted or unescorted, is gonna make its way over into Peter's old natural expansion. Or I guess his natural expansion. Peter trying to be a bit cheeky there, not able to get it off in time, not having the defenses there for those units. Scorpion Tanks finally going down, only one of them remaining. Shields there for the Tripod is going to be the upgrade. Scorpion Tanks with these laser capacitors moving in the northern side of his opponent's base, but the answer is definitely going to be these Tripods. Tripods are pretty good. There's 3 in number, a couple of Venoms here. Seeker Tanks need to protect them from those Venoms before they lose their shield. Shield did go down for one Tripod there, and the Force, it looks like Geo's a little bit sloppy here on his formations. He does lose a refinery there in the background. This could still go either way, but the Tripod should be fine in this fight. Tripod should do pretty well. There's the magnetic mine drop going for those Tripods. Tripods can't move, and they do move a little bit, taking damage, taking down their shield. Peter actually might be able to turn this around despite losing an MCV. Geo is in danger. Losing those Tripods is definitely going to sting. He's got next to nothing left in the tank, and there it is. He's thrown in the towel, giving Peter a much-needed victory. Was definitely pretty shaky losing that MCV, but he was able to keep up the pressure. He was able to destroy those Tripods, despite those Tripods being so powerful. That mine drop really tipped the scales in his favor. Round number 2 starts on Tournament Odyssey. Over in the top right-hand side of the map, we have Geo making another change, going from Scrin to, I believe that is Reaper. Nope, it's Traveler 59. Traveler 59 over in the top right-hand corner. Over in the bottom left-hand corner, Peter sticking with his nod, and why not? He did pretty well. Made a good accounting of himself, except for that MCV. Losing that MCV did sting. Looks like it's a couple of descents out here for his opponents, out and ready to go. It looks like it's going to be 6 probably. Fast Legs probably there in the background. There it is. Fast Legs have popped their out. 7 descents out. Going to get caught over here by the Rifleman squads, taking out a couple of the numbers there of those descents, but that means Peter's going to have time to prepare for this. Militant squads ready to go. Shredder turret probably there in the background. Will definitely be good for the defense, but Geo might be going for the tib spikes instead. Militant squad's going to run into the descents and give them a couple more losses if they're not careful. Raider Buggy here to add the final nail in the coffin. This descent rush might already be over before it has already begun. Raider Buggy's backing their way out, trying to stay out of the range for those descents. They do manage to stop right there, and they do get targeted down and destroyed. We can't let those disintegrators get too close. Shredder turrets getting sold off to help support these numbers. These descents might have time to take out this Tiberium spike if they are allowed. That Raider Buggy needs to get in there as quickly as possible, but he's going for the Buzzer Hive instead, which means Peter's going to lose that tower there for it. Militant squad's running into the disintegrators. Raider Buggy trying everything it can to stay alive. Geo finding great value in these units, destroying that tib spike and destroying a couple of the forces there for his opponent, forcing him to spend resources probably where he does not want to. And that is showing at least a little bit. It looks like Geo's just a tiny bit ahead. He doesn't have his second refinery. He does have a 4th harvester. Second refinery on the way here quite soon. Peter a bit ahead of the economic gains, at least of the placing of infrastructure. Disintegrators are going to get another kill on those Raider buggies. That's going to be unfortunate, which means they are so far uncontested. If they make their way around long enough, they might be able to deal some damage to that Tiberium Spike. Looks like they're just going to go straight forward just as quickly. 2 Disintegrators squads are left. That's going to be able to do some damage to the Tiberium Spike. If there's no response there from Peter, he could lose that, which will definitely hurt this late in the game, or this early in the game. Raider buggy finally moving its way forward. Should be enough to put the nail in the coffin. Disintegrators shouldn't have enough damage there really to destroy it with that Raider buggy picking off their numbers. Seeker tanks and Disintegrators produced over here by Geo. More and more of them joining the fray. It looks like his goal is to try to keep up some sort of pressure. Peter already having a defensive tower ready to go will put a damper in that assault one way or another. Drone ship moving its way into the natural expansion. Peter being a bit ahead, already having a war factory out and ready to go, which is going to be good because he's got a couple of troops marching on his front doorstep. The Synths and Seekers making their way down into the natural expansion of Peter. One Scorpion tank is going to get produced. Probably a couple more there in the background right on cue there for his opponent. It is going to get targeted there. Disintegrators moving their way forward. It looks like it might go down for free if he's not careful, as Geo gets another free kill there and now goes for the War Factory. That War Factory is in danger. Peter did have the wherewithal to put it down into low power mode, but it didn't matter. Another Scorpion tank there on the front line. Shredder turrets destroying those descents, and this War Factory might actually manage to make it. Indeed, it does. Peter able to turn this assault around just a little bit, but it's not over as Geo continues the assault. Geo continues moving these units in, going for some of these softer targets. Only one Scorpion tank here for the defense, selling off of the power plant there in the background. Harvester going to go for a Harvester with full Tiberium is going to go down, followed by a second Harvester. This is exactly what Geo wants. Geo does get a second Harvester there, and if he's not careful, he's going to get even more kills. Scorpion tank going down to half HP. Peter not faring the best, and Geo's just not letting up. Geo keeps sending in descent after descent, Seeker tank after Seeker tank, going for the Harvesters over and over as another Harvester goes down. That's a third Harvester upgrade there for the Descents. Descents going for the Refinery. Does look like a couple of these Raider buggies going to move their way in, but it's going to get destroyed just as quickly as it pops its way out. Scorpion tanks backing their way up, but they need to be moving their way forward to get the crush on these Disintegrators. Disintegrators just doing so much damage. Seeker tanks backing their way out. Might just barely be able to make it. A couple more reinforcements joining, and Geo's just continuing the assault over and over. A couple more descents with these fast legs making their way over on the left-hand side. Peter's got to tighten things up if he's going to deal with this assault. Looks like he's mopped up most of the things over here on the right-hand side, but that might be what Geo wants. Geo wants to occupy these forces and keep them over on this right-hand side so we can't respond to that. Tiberium Spike is going to get maybe targeted. I feel like going for the Harvesters might be more important instead, and indeed he is going to see that going for yet another Harvester. This will be a fourth Harvester if he gets a kill. Indeed, he's going to be able to get it. Still no response here for Peter. Peter going to lose a fifth Harvester. At the very least, it's forced to stop depositing its load. Shredder turrets there on the front line, but it doesn't matter because the Disintegrators get exactly what they want. They get a Harvester and they get a Scorpion tank, and actually they're starting to go for the Shredder turret. You may as well deal what damage you can to it because you're not going to make it out of there alive. More Descents moving their way over on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. Geo doing a fantastic job of just attacking both sides over and over. Peter just not being able to respond has had a profound effect on him. Peter hurting so bad in the resource. It looks like it's about 6k per minute opposed to 12k. That's twice the difference there. Scorpion tanks moving their way forward. Scorpion tanks really need to move in for the crush. I know they don't want to get close to those descents, but the descents are already in range. You may as well try and go for the crush. Tiberium Spike dying over on the left-hand side, selling off of the War Factory. Not sure that was wise. That would have bought him a little bit of time. Refinery getting targeted once again. More and more Shredder turrets popping their way on the front line. Seeker tanks going down left and right to these Scorpion tanks, but it doesn't matter as the Tiberium Spike goes down on the left-hand side. Another Harvester does get targeted, going down to half HP, but it does manage to survive. So many descents going into the production over here for the left-hand side. Peter just ramping up his assault, playing a little bit like a brutal AI in this. Not letting up whatsoever. Disintegrators looking for something to snack on. Probably going to go for a power plant or maybe something over here in the background. Black Hand Squads, looks like probably an Operations Center did get sold off here for the defense, but it may not matter as the construction yard does get targeted by so many descents. It's already going down to half HP. It's going to get destroyed here, and I'm not sure he can do anything about it. He's still not crushing descents despite these Scorpion tanks being right here. You got to move forward and get the crush, but it doesn't matter because I think this is Geo's game to lose. Losing that unit overall, losing all of this. Fire sale probably going to happen here soon. Another Harvester going down.
More and more lifelines going down left and right. The assault is finally stalled, but it doesn't matter. Peter's thrown in the towel. He's lost too much, and he's way too far behind on economy. Geo even almost chewed through all of his natural expansion in that time, while Peter just barely touched it. That's exactly what you want to see from a player like Geo. Happy to see that engagement happening off. Peter definitely does need to do a little bit better there. He does need to scout out a little bit more in order to stop Geo from that assault and maybe transition just a little bit better. And most importantly, he needs to go for the crush with his tanks. I know you don't want to get them close to those disintegrators, but if they're already there, you may as well try and get some kills on them and maybe make them panic, maybe make the player panic on them. Our round 3 is on Tournament Highlands. Over on the right-hand side of the map, switching over to GDI. This is Geo in the purple. His opponent still for the moment on the bottom left-hand corner of the map, rocking the nod, sticking with his color. We still have Peter. That Descent Rush having a profound effect on Peter there. Hopefully he does mix up his strategy. Peter hasn't really changed his strategy really at all in any of these games. He's gone Scorpion Tank after Scorpion Tank over and over. Geo seeming to be much more happy to mix things up, switching factions, changing build, just looking for something that works, subverting those expectations, all those things being pretty important for him. Shredder Turret getting sold off to destroy those scouts. And indeed, it's going to do it quite quickly. Second Harvester out for Geo. Refinery on its way. Same thing for Peter. Peter, I think, just a little bit ahead on building that refinery. No, they're pretty close to one another. Foxhole does get deployed. A little bit of clipping there on the ground. Looks like they don't handle elevation too well. Raider Buggy making its way over into his opponent's base. Going to be important to keep that scouting off. Doesn't look like any scouts have been able to make it into Peter's base, so this might be Peter's opportunity to get something sneaky. There are a couple of rifleman squads over here in this foxhole ready for a bit of a scout, but they're not ready just quite yet, and they haven't moved their way over. Pitbull versus Raider Buggy. Pitbull should be fine, especially with the healing from the War Factory, but I believe Peter just wanted that for a bit of scouting, and indeed he did get a pretty decent scouting run off on his opponent. Peter producing a second War Factory already, moving on to his natural expansion, followed shortly behind Geo. Scouts do finally move their way forward, running into the militant squads. They should win this engagement, which means they're going to be able to see what Peter is up to. Which isn't anything crazy just quite yet. Pitbull is out. Pitbull moving its way forward, and if it's not careful, it's going to get destroyed to these bikes. One bike going down to half HP. The other one stays behind to deal a bit more damage to it. Hopefully, Peter's going to micro it out in time, but it doesn't matter because another bike joins the fray and destroys the Pitbull before really anything can be done. Pitbull's moving their way over to the south to protect a Harvester, so while it grabs a little bit of blue Tiberium. Not sure if there's enough here for a full load, but we're going to find out here in a minute. Looks like there may have been some there in the ground that I was not able to see. Bike and Buggy is going to be the play here for Peter, maybe trying to get a bit of a faster engagement. He does have that double War Factory already this early in the game. Pitbull versus Bikes. It looks like Bikes are at the advantage, but the Concave's a little bit better here for the Pitbulls. One does go down, leaving only 3 remaining. Second one goes down, probably followed by a third one here soon. Peter not choosing his targets, now going for that Harvester instead. He's going to lose his attack bikes for it. One attack bike goes down quickly, followed by a Pitbull probably here soon. Another one does die for it, and Peter's not able to get that Harvester. Harvester making its way all the way back to base, running into all these Pitbulls. Now Peter is at a disadvantage for sure, losing forces left and right. He's lost too much in that engagement to continue it. Attack bikes might be able to make it out, but not so much for the Raider Buggy. Peter running home to lick his wounds so far. Refinery about halfway complete there for Peter. It looks like he's going to be pretty behind Geo when it comes to the economy. Yeah, Geo's already got 2K lead ahead and 5K total resources gathered. Geo's also seems to be occupying or controlling these blue Tiberium nodes a little bit better than his opponent. Geo now going on the assault. Going to go and find actually a couple of free Harvesters right here. Harvester going to get targeted. If it's not careful, it's going to go down. However, the Scorpion tanks are here for the defense. That is one nice thing for his opponent. Harvester, for some reason, turns around in order for it to get destroyed. Scorpion tanks into these Pitbulls. Pitbulls taking a couple of shots off on the Scorpion tanks on their way out, going for this Harvester that's just sort of sitting here. I'm not sure why he's not moving his Harvester further back, but that may be because the Scorpion tanks are going to continue to deal damage after damage. Geo getting caught in a little bit of an ambush there. Scorpion tank's just going to be able to do too much damage. At the very least, they were able to get one Harvester, so that'll be a small consolation prize for them. Pitbull's moving into the center of the map. Looks like it's going to be mass Pitbulls here for Geo, and he can afford these trades because he's about 4K ahead of his opponent per minute. And almost 10K total resources gathered. Peter's got to step it up. Operations Center there on the front line. Not sure if he wants to do that, but maybe time will tell that was the appropriate call. Attack bike's going for the Tiberius spike of their opponent. Geo turning around to assault that, to deal with that, while Geo has a couple of Pitbulls over here in the south. Pitbull's looking for something to snack on. Maybe going to go for a Harvester. Not sure what the plan is. They don't have their mortars just quite yet. Looks like they're going to go for a little bit of free shots on the power plant, but going to get pushed out by those Scorpion tanks. Bikes do die in the north while taking at least one casualty. Geo doing a good job of forcing his opponent to move the Scorpion tanks over here to the south. He's got a couple in the north. He's got a couple in the south. Those should help with the defenses. And it looks like he definitely has the numbers for them, for at least for the current moment. Tip Spike getting targeted, forcing Peter to respond. Peter moving in on Geo. Geo going to lose a couple of Pitbulls here, while only doing minimal damage there to that Tiberium Spike. Peter much more solid here on the defense, but Geo significantly better on the economy, already moving into the center of the map. This doesn't spell well for Peter. Peter needs to step things up. He needs to get a bit more scouting out, and if he's not careful, these tanks are going to roll right into his base while he's off doing other things because most of his forces are sitting over here. Nobody's really grabbed Tiberium since his opponent has done that in the background. It looks like Peter's going to grab a couple, at least a little bit over here in the background. Geo setting up defenses right here while the Scorpion tanks just march their way around. He definitely sees them, so I'm not sure why he's not responding. Looks like it's going to be Pitbulls and a couple of tanks here for the defense. Oh, that's why he's not responding. He had a couple inside of his base already ready to go. Peter's sending a couple of them in, a couple of Scorpion tanks in, but they're not concaved whatsoever. They're going to take a whole bunch of focus fire damage and get destroyed rather quickly. It doesn't matter if you have numbers, they get taken out that quickly. T3 getting targeted over here by all these Predator tanks. Predator tanks are going to destroy it. Now focusing on that Obelisk of Light, but that means no more Obelisk of Light can be built. These Predator tanks have already found great value in destroying both of those targets. Now going for the Scorpion tanks as well. This assault's going to be hard to stop, especially without those Obelisk of Light. And there's the railgun ammo there in the background. Going for the MCV for Peter. Peter is in trouble. Might already lose a second MCV. That's definitely going to sting. Geo just absolutely on top of his A game. A couple of Fanatics moving their way forward, but it doesn't matter because the railgun focus fire going to destroy them out rather quickly. The reverse move does get called as the tanks have to back their way out. However, they've already done their damage. They destroyed Obelisk of Light, they destroyed a T3, and they destroyed that MCV. Fanatics continue to move their way forward. They do manage to get 2 of the tanks, so that is going to help, but it's only going to be nominal because he can afford these trades. Geo has taken over the center of the map and is now focusing on the refinery. Refinery down on the natural expansion is going to get destroyed, which is going to make the economic leads even higher in his opponent's regard. Scorpion tanks sort of sitting over here in the background. Do get an airfield there in the background as well. Not sure Peter can really turn this around. Geo has to make a massive amount of mistakes for that to happen. Scorpion tank going to get targeted down, probably destroyed here in a minute if it's not careful. And there it is, destroyed right on cue. But most of these Predator tanks already done, but the damage has been dealt. Taking out 3 important structures there for Peter. And Peter's just... he did catch up briefly there in the economy, at least a little bit, but he's still 3K behind, which is quite the number. Looks like it's going to be Hammerheads with probably AP ammo, I'm assuming. Yep, Hammerheads with AP ammo. And it's actually 3 airfields, so it's going to be mass units. And why not? He's set up in so many places. He has so much economy to play with. Geo being a much better player than I expected him to be, doing quite well into Peter. I'm curious to see how he does further in some of the matches, so I'm excited to see what else he's got in store for us. Hammerheads joining the fray as an assault has begun in the south. Couple of mine drops here, but it looks like Geo's just going to go entirely around it, focusing on the power plants there. A couple of rocket squads there for the defense. That is definitely going to be the play, especially if you're hurting on resources. They're going to start focusing fire on these Hammerheads. Hammerheads going down left and right, but the Hammerheads are just buying time, I think, for these Predator tanks, as the Predator tanks destroy a war factory and go for a second construction yard. There's just absolutely no way for Peter to come back at this point. He's lost so much resources to these Predator tanks, and the assault's not over. He hasn't been able to delay it whatsoever. Peter on the ground saying, I can still fight, sitting in a pool of his own blood, just not able to keep up. Geo doing fantastic. Geo having so much economy to play and taking out Peter. That gives Geo another point there. Peter really needs to step it up. He needs to change his strategy if he's going to fight his opponent. Geo constantly making changes, constantly making different transitions, while Peter has remained the same. Granted, Peter is one of these newer players, but I believe so is Geo. I haven't seen him at the very least, but he's making a good appearance for himself so far. Our potential match point takes place on Tournament Airstrip. Peter's back is against the wall. Only one more loss and he gets knocked out, I believe, and he's had a couple other unfortunate matches. Geo, however, has been doing quite well. This is his first appearance in the Chrono Clash, as far as I know. I haven't seen him anywhere else just quite yet. Maybe he's further down in the replays. I think he might be part of the E bracket. Either way, I'm happy to see his plays. I'm happy to see what he can do, and I'm excited to see what he can do into some more of these players. Over on the right-hand side, Geo making yet another change in both color and faction, switching to Marked of Kane and Red. Peter sticking with his gun, sticking with his nod, what he knows, over in the top left in the green. First couple of scouts going to get taken down there by, it looks like Geo. Nod versus Nod. Not quite a mirror match, but at least Nod versus Sub-Faction. Who's going to come out on top, the Marked of Kane or the Nod? Geo, like I said, needs to change up his strategy. Going into the Scorpion tanks early on is great for the defense, but it cannot be your whole strategy, especially when railgun ammo is out and ready to go, and just those Predator tanks are moving their way in. Geo starting out strong, having a couple of bikes ready to go, but if they're not careful, they're going to take a whole bunch of free damage from a couple of different things. Peter does outnumber it, but he's not paying attention, which means the damage might be on Geo's side. Peter might lose this force, even though he had greater numbers. Indeed, Peter was not paying attention, and he lost to the smaller force. The attention span was much higher there for Geo. Geo grouping more attack bikes over in the center of the map. Continuing this assault, looking for something to snack on, grouping his forces, hopefully. No, it looks like that bike's going to go back for some much-needed repairs. Another one does join the fray, which means there's going to be 4 bikes here. Fifth one would be nice, because you need 2 volleys from 5 bikes in order to make that Harvester hurt. But it doesn't matter if there's no defense here so far for Peter. Peter's already in trouble as a Harvester gets targeted down, getting close to getting destroyed. Sure, it doesn't have a full load of Tiberium, but losing it's going to hurt nonetheless, as one does go down. Maybe, yep, there it is. Does get taken down. They stop for a little bit of snack. They stop for the other attack bike. Now focusing on another one. Peter actually maybe already throwing in the towel. There it is. Peter giving up this early into the game, giving Geo a victory. Geo taking a 3-1 lead. Peter just not able to keep up. Was nice to see him inside the Chrono Clash. I believe he's entirely knocked out after that game happened. I'm always excited to see these new players, and this is a good opportunity for them to face people who they don't normally get to go up against. Match number 4, round 1, takes place on Tournament LA. Starts over in the top right-hand corner of the map, rocking the purple in the black hand. Give it up for Mystic Elite. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, rocking the yellow in the Traveler 59. Give it up for Fate Zero. Did I get it right this time? Yeah, Traveler 59. I got it right this time. Quick item of note, Tournament LA is savored by Shockwave Sausages. Crisped in Shockwave and savored with the side of Tinnitus. A couple of scouts over here for Fate Zero already making their way into their opponent's base. Same cannot be said for his opponent. Looks like they stopped inside a couple of these garrison side buildings, at least on their opponent's side. MCV making its march over into that secondary natural expansion for both players. Drone ship doing the exact quite same. It looks like we've got our 2 refineries and 5 harvesters per player. Looks like Elite's just a little bit behind on that upgrade, which may cost him. Fate's a pretty solid player. at least when it comes to build order. So if you don't keep up with him, you're going to have some hard difficulties. Secondary War Factory out there for Elite. Elite probably suspecting something is going to be up. Going to see those Gunwalkers marching their way down Main Street. Those will be something to deal with, but they're not as bad as dealing with Seeker Tanks. I say that, and right on cue, there is a Seeker Tank Gunwalker having to back its way out. These units getting free scouts and free damage. Gunwalker walking immediately into its doom. Couple of attack bikes, and these Raider buggies should do perfectly fine into it. May as well continue moving forward, Fate Zero, because that little guy is not going to make it out in time. Gunwalker going down. There it is, finally getting taken down by Elite. Elite being the first one to get a little bit of kill, getting his first blood out and ready to go. And now he's free to move into Fate Zero. Fate Zero having a little bit better concave. Seeker Tanks out on the fence there, taking a couple of shots off on this bike and buggy. Bike and buggy being produced more and more there in the background. Mystic Elite looking for something to snack on. Fate's going to have to tighten up his defense over here. A couple of rocket squads, or a couple of attack bikes are going to join the fray, but they are going to be focused over there by Fate Zero. Fate Zero doing a fantastic job focusing fire what he needs to fire, not wasting his shots on these Raider buggies. Raider buggies are almost all that remains, only a couple of attack bikes as well. Fate Zero does need to knock out a couple more of those. He does move a Mechapede in. He's got one Mechapede with a single segment there, but that should fare quite well once it builds its segments out. Seeker Tank's doing pretty good into all of these Raider buggies. Raider buggies joining the fray non-stop. It looks like Elite cannot keep a single attack bike going. Fate Zero just sort of walking over his opponent with all of these Mechapedes. Mechapedes absolutely just dominating this fight as Elite loses unit after units. Not sure why he's still committing to this assault. He's not going to get really any gains out of this. Maybe he can get one Mechapede? No, it looks like it's not the case. He's lost too many attack bikes there. Attack bikes can be good into Mechapedes if you time your shot right, or if the other person macros or micros poorly. Either way, it's not going to happen for Elite. Elite's going to lose forces left and right. Fate Zero is just sort of walking his way across the map into Elite. Looks like Elite's being a bit cheeky over there. Is able to sneak an engineer entirely over on the other side of the map. Minor victories where you can get them, I guess. A couple of segments for the Mechapede are going to go down. Elite's going to try everything he can, but it looks like the concave is just not there for it. He just can't get the shots in, and he already throws in the towel, giving Fate his first victory. Probably our second quickest match for this wave. I think we had a 2-minute match earlier. Now we have a 4-minute match. Give me 1 minute as we boot up round number 2. Our next round takes place on Old Faithful Tournament Odyssey. Over in the top right-hand side of the map, we have Fate in the red playing the GDI. His opponent for the moment, the bottom left-hand corner of the map, is still Mystic Elite in the black hand and in the purple. Elite losing pretty early on. He invested too much into that assault without any real significant gains, and Fate just sort of kept up the pressure over and over and over, and just won too much with those Mechapedes. That transition really saved his opponent there. I feel like a lesser opponent would have crumbled a bit more into that attack bike, but I don't think it was as uniform as it could be. It was not set up for concave. He had the opportunities to use his attack bikes to destroy Mechapedes, but the microing was a little bit stronger there for Fate Zero, so he was just able to eke out a victory. A couple of scouts for Fate making their way across the map. Looks like it's going to be 3, maybe 2 going for the natural and 1 going for the main. Shredder Turds here on the front line, going to push out a couple and get a couple of good shots off on those rifleman squads. A couple of going down in the south. Looks like Elite doesn't want those units anywhere near his buildings. Foxhole getting deployed should be enough to deal with those Confessor Cabal squads, and indeed they are. Rifleman squads might be able to turn around and wipe them out if they're not careful. Only one of them is remaining so far. That will be enough to put a dent in these units, but not quite take them out. Second refinery out there for Elite. Fate Zero being a bit cheeky, just using the power plant as a line of sight, destroying that last little scout, destroying that last little defense there. Not able to get quite what they want. They got one squad, but that was really about it. Fourth Harvester out for Elite. Fate Zero sitting on 4, producing his 5th. That should be it right there, I believe. Yep, there's the 5th Harvester, and moving on to his natural expansion. Elite hasn't done the same thing just quite yet. Spending a little bit more time inside of his base, and Fate Zero is reaping the benefits of that. He's got about 500 extra per minute than his opponent, at least for the current moment. Fate Zero just setting up these foxholes absolutely everywhere. 2 War Factories looks like once again. Fate Zero going to spot that. Fate Zero going to see that. So he knows that there's going to be a production battle here in a minute. Hopefully he's going to be producing a couple of pit bulls, and there it is right on cue. He's got a good transition. He's got a watchtower there on the front line, killing the scouts of his opponents. Bike's finally going for those foxhole, but taking free damage for it as well. Looks like it's going to be Bike and Buggy once again for Mystic Elite. Maybe he's going to have a bit of better time. I think there's a less of a commute to make it over to Fate Zero's base this time around, but Fate has had plenty of time to prepare for that double War Factory. Last little scout over here for Fate's going to get taken out and destroyed, and Elite's going to go on the attack here rather quickly, making his way into the center of the map, maybe looking for a softer target, but Fate Zero so far is not going to be that softer target. He's got plenty of pit bulls. He's got plenty of watchtowers here for the defense. One does go into low power mode, but quickly pops out of it. Fate Zero moving, or sorry, not Fate, Mystic Elite moving a scout in to test the waters beforehand. Hopefully he's going to see that he doesn't have the numbers yet to fight that, despite having his production. Falling behind Fate Zero by almost 2K. It looks like it's 1.5K with Fate Zero in the lead for the moment. Bike's looking for greener pastures, maybe to go over here on the right-hand side, maybe hit where Fate's a little bit softer. Fortunately, Bike's wasting the majority of their volley there on those rifleman squads, which means these pit bulls are going to have even more time to deal more and more damage to them. Attack Bike after attack Bike goes down. Watchtower there on the front line. Harvesters moving their way out. Fate Zero needs to tighten, sorry, not Fate Zero, Mystic Elite needs to tighten this up, but it doesn't matter because he's going to lose the lion's share of his forces. He's just not able to keep up with Fate Zero. Fate Zero is just absolutely on top of it with the defense, buying himself, and Mystic Elite's not helping himself with wasting those shots on those rifleman squads. He probably should have done a curve around after he got those shots off. Refinery getting targeted, taking minor damage there. Elite's finally killing, nope, only killing a pit bull there. One pit bull going to go down, one harvester going to get targeted, going down to half HP. Fate Zero trying to micro it, trying to save it, and indeed, nope, he does not save it. Another one goes down. That's the first little victory there for Elite, but it doesn't matter because Fate Zero just has so many pit bulls. He's had plenty of time to prepare for this assault, and he's just outnumbered his opponent. The defender's advantage has given him time to repair, to heal, to get more forces out than his opponent, and those economic leads are just continuing to increase there for Fate Zero. The longer this game goes, the better it is for Elite, and it looks like Elite went all in on that one, selling off his MCV to give himself even more resources, but still not finding the gains, and now he's going to be on his back foot if he's not careful. Elite does have the defender's advantage, but I don't think it's going to win against these numbers. I think Fate Zero definitely has this one in the bag. He has to mess up pretty hard. Bike going down there for free, followed by a pit bull going down for free, but at the very least, Fate Zero is going to see the numbers. They're going to back his way out, going to move closer to his reinforcement lines. 2 bikes going down over on the right side, pit bull going down on the left side, taking minor losses on both sides. A couple of APCs going to join the fray as well. I think this fight definitely favors Fate. Not sure why he's not committing to it. Maybe he's just worried about making a mistake. Either way, a good chunk of these bikes are going to go down left and right. Elite cannot afford these trades, even if they end up being one-for-one trades. Fate Zero just has so much in the bank. He wants this to happen. He wants this attrition to happen because he wins a war of attrition. All but 3 bikes are down, leaving only a couple of these Raider buggies. Not sure Elite knows it, but I think he's all but dead. I don't see a way for him to come back from this. He's already back to long-distance harvesting. Sure, he's got 4 harvesters, but that's going to be a bit of a travel. That commute's definitely going to cost him, and indeed, he's almost down by about 4K per minute. Fate Zero's up about a little over 10K so far. And he has plenty on the field to deal with the forces of Elite. Elite trying to look for, once again, for something to snack on. At this point, if I was Fate, I'd start using my additional resources to grab more of these defensive towers, especially if you know your opponent's gone heavily into Bike and Buggy. Bike and Buggy moving their way in on Fate Zero's base. Fate Zero actually backing out at an inopportune time, which means he might lose a Harvester here for it. 1 Harvester getting close to get, 2 Harvester getting close to get taken down. They are going to go down, but it doesn't matter because the majority of the forces there for Elite are going to go down, which means Fate Zero can just roll into his opponent's base. Elite just not able to keep up with Fate Zero. Fate Zero just on top of him on the economy, on top of him on the micro, and on top of him on the defense. Poor Elite just can't catch a break. 3rd War Factory here to join the fray. Might have been a little bit better to build up his numbers instead, but he's managed to throw his units time and time again in into the shoreline that is Fate Zero, and Fate Zero's just been whittling him down over and over, taking trades, which are exactly what he needs to do. And now his opponent is completely long distance harvesting while Fate Zero moves on to his third expansion with his MCV here in the background. A couple of Ikes moving their way in, maybe 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them getting caught here in an unfortunate position. There is the upgrade there. There's the mortars for the units, for the pit bulls. Elite running directly into Fate Zero's trap, losing the majority of his units. Those mortars just doing absolute splash damage. Sure, they may not hit their target, but they will hit the target right behind them as the majority of the units there for Fate Zero do get taken down. And now Fate Zero can move his way into Elite's base. Elite is in trouble. He's in danger. Fate Zero just has too much on the map, and he throws in the towel, giving Fate Zero a 2-0 lead. He's gonna have to change things up. Fate Zero's just absolutely on top of it, on top of him, and managing to get point after point. If he's not careful, this next game is going to be match points. Fate Zero rolls into Hampstead Gardens with a 2-0 lead. Mystic Elite over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing Mark of Kane in the purple, his opponent in the south in the blue, playing the, let's see if I get it right, Traveler 59. Hey, I got it right. I'm slowly learning the factions. Welcome to the chat, Fox. Thank you for joining me. Fox versus Dutch Army cast win. It depends on how far down in the replay vault it is. You can actually see where I'm at in the replay vault because I've hearted each game I've done so far in the replay vault to let me know where I'm at. I don't think it's in this one. I don't remember seeing it in this one. But it should, I think, be in the next cast. I have another cast or two to complete what's in the vault, so you're somewhere in the mix. I don't know where quite yet, Fox. Unless it was a game that was further back, you'll have to let me know. I'm pretty sure it was a more relatively recent game. But like I said, if you check the Discord, you can see where I'm at in the replays and which ones I've done. I've hearted each one, and I've been able to do the majority of them. There's probably going to be about 4 games I can't cast, 2 because there's just the full games aren't on there, and I don't want to cast a sub game. I would rather do as much full coverage as I can, so if I can't get the whole thing, I'm probably just not going to cast it. And then a couple were just like absolute slugfest that I just couldn't find a good spot to fit them in, so that'll boil down for that anyways. Looks like me streaming in the morning did allow you to show up a little bit, though, there, Fox. I don't get to see you in my streams too often. I think you're in bed probably by the time I start streaming because of the time zone difference. A couple of scouts for Fate Zero making their way into his opponent's base, seeing what he's up to, which is going to be really important if he's doing a rush. He's going to need to know that. So far, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. He hasn't even gotten out a second War Factory like he's done in the prior games. Fate Zero keeping his opponent on the toe with this Skrin sub-faction. MCV making its way over to the natural expansion a bit behind Fate Zero. Fate Zero probably popping up his refinery right here, I'm guessing, which means he's going to try to increase his economic lead whatsoever. Yeah, glad to cast it. You know, at some point, Fox, I don't know how you feel about it, but we should try and do a co-cast. I don't know if you're feeling up for it, but we'll have to figure out a time that works for you. EMP catching the drone ship over here with Fate Zero being a bit of annoyance. Nice to see that from Mark of Kane. Looks like Mark of Kane grabbing a little bit of Scorpion tanks out and ready to go. This would be good. Into the Seeker tanks of their opponents. More scouts for Fate Zero making their way across the map. Seeker tank making their way across the map. Yep, there it is. There's the double war factory there. It looks like he waited until he got his natural expansion down. EMP catching the extractor, delaying the resources just a little bit more there for his opponent, for Fate Zero, trying desperately to close the gap. Seeker tank definitely going to get taken out there. Scorpion tanks having plenty of firepower to take it out. More and more Seeker tanks being produced by his opponent. Sounds good. Wouldn't mind. I think it'd be cool. I'm trying to get a whole bunch of co-cast in. I've done 2 with Cybert so far, 1 with Alex. I talked to Zads about doing it, but unfortunately, right when this tournament hit, Zads got really sick, so he's been in the background recovering. So hopefully he feels better, so I really want to try to get a cast in with him for the Chrono Clash. I don't know how you feel about casting the Chrono Clash. I think it would be funny if you cast some of the games that you were in You're going to have a little bit of spoilers there, but it would be nice to see your perspective, because then I could literally ask you, what were you thinking when this happened? Kind of thing. Scorpion tanks moving in on the Seeker tanks. They do not want this fight whatsoever. However, they might waste time for the Mechapedes. Mechapedes moving their way in. Those should do plenty of damage to the Scorpion tanks. The Scorpion tanks, if they get shots on these heads, will manage to take them out rather quickly. However, I don't think Fate Zero is going to allow it, keeping his rear end facing towards the Scorpion tanks absolutely like he should. One Scorpion tank sort of getting forgotten over here. Gonna see that there is a third one out there on the horizon, dying for free, unfortunately. It did get a little bit of scouting out, but that's just about it. I am GMT 2+, if that helps. Would be pretty interesting, yeah. I'm CST. I don't remember how far we are apart. For example, right now it's 11:37 a.m. for me. So that should give you math-wise. So we'll have to find out some sort of time that works out both for us. I also don't know if you prefer weekends or weekdays or whatever. Weekdays are a little bit harder for me because of my job. So weekends are a little bit easier, where I can wake up earlier or stay up late to catch a cast with you. Mechapedes moving their way in on Elite's base. There will definitely be a pretty good answer into all these Scorpion tanks. However, there are a lot of Scorpion tanks here to deal with. EMP popping off, only getting one of the Seeker tanks going down, leaving only the Mechapedes to remain. Mechapedes facing their rear towards that. They probably could have just sat here and dealt a good number of damage to the Harvesters as they roll their way in. Scorpion tanks not able to find the purchases that they need. Mechapedes continuing their skirmishing, getting free shots off. Mine drop missing those units right there. They did try to bait them in by moving their way in, but it was not quick enough. Mechapedes looking for greener pastures, maybe going for the old main base here for Elite. Elite doesn't have too much in the defense front. He does have a couple of Venoms, but I believe the Mechapedes can shoot up. I believe the Mechapedes can take out those units. Weekend easier for me as well. Makes sense. I think it's easier for most people. Mechapedes moving their way in, taking a couple good shots. Headshot almost happening there for one of the Mechapedes if they're not careful. More and more join the fray here as they repair their segments. One getting caught in an unfortunate position. There is the upgrade there for Elite. Elite's finally able to get a dozer upgrade there for his Scorpion tanks. However, his formation is not as tight as it needs to be, as he keeps sending a couple into their doom, which he cannot afford. Elite also behind on... No, Elite actually ahead on the economy. Is this his chance to make a reverse sweep? Is he going to be able to pull one off on Fate Zero? Only time will tell. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Mechapedes running into the mines for free. They're losing the majority of their segments. The heads are still alive, which means they can continue to repair, but that's definitely going to be costly. Hand of Nod there on the front line. Would be nice to see a couple of rocket squads. Beam cannons there in the background should be able to constantly deal shots to these units, so that should help. Lightning Spike there on the background, forcing the beam cannons to back their way out. Harvesters are now in danger as Venom's moving their way in. This is Elite's best opportunity to turn the tables, to destroy all these Mechapedes. If he's able to kill the Mechapedes, this will fare quite well for him. Beam cannons dealing damage after damage. I think that may have been a one-click there in the background. It looks like I did miss it. However, the micro is just too strong here for Fate Zero. Elite just can't catch a break whatsoever, and I think the majority of those beam cannons did die, which were really his best bet. Would be nice to see a couple of rocket squads, but it looks like Mystic Elite has hit the zero. He's entirely on E, so this is Fate Zero's game to lose. Refinery does get sold off, giving him some much-needed resources, but it doesn't matter because a Harvester is there and is exposed. Actually, pretty good EMP there for the Mechapedes. Mechapedes are in danger, but I don't think he has the damage to follow it up. One segment does go down, one head does get targeted and destroyed, but I think it's too little too late, and Lightning Spike is here to stay. Harvesters with their self are the only lifeline he has remaining. He's finally got a little bit of in the bank, but not enough to really do anything with. Venoms didn't really last like he needed to, and Fate Zero's moving more and more reinforcements up. He's also got a Prodigy out and ready to go, so if he's not careful, he's going to get some shenanigans dealt upon him. Venom's getting targeted down. Venom's getting destroyed. It looks like Fate Zero did an upgrade there in the background, maybe for the Mechapedes. Eradicator Hexapod here to add insult to injury. There's a single avatar, but it doesn't matter because the focus fire is real as it gets taken out. And not only that, it gets taken over by the Prodigy. Prodigy grabbing the avatar, grabbing really the only lifeline there. Elite had Elite going down in flames. Fate Zero progressing in the tournament with this 3-0 lead. Things are definitely heating up. Didn't expect a 3-0 sweep there. I thought Elite was going to do a little bit better, but I think Fate Zero might just be a bit more practiced than him, a bit more familiar with the game. Either way, excited to see new players like Peter, Geo, and elite in it. I don't want to discourage those players from entering the tournament, and which is one of the reasons I'm trying to go out of my way to cover their games. I want them to play. I'm not trying to rag on them, but I'm trying to call out what mistakes I feel they happen when they happen. Round 5, or match 5, round 1 takes place on Tournament Airstrip. Starting us over in the top right-hand corner of the map, rocking the yellow in the GDI. Give it up for Space. Over on the left-hand side of the map, rocking the pink in, I believe that is Traveler. Give it up for Svensson. Let's see if I got it right. Nope, Reaper 17, got it wrong. Can't get them all right. A couple of descents over here for Svensson out and ready to go. Actually, in the south and in the north, he looks like he's got 5 squads in the south with 2 buzzer squads. It looks like that seems to be the traditional rush tactics. No fast legs just quite yet. It looks like they're not going to be on the horizon, so he's not going to invest the resources in that center, in that upgrade. Looks like he's going to be happy with just moving in on his assault, maybe going for the Tiberium Spike, maybe expecting this game to go last a little bit longer. APC with Rifleman squads in should do a good enough damage if it can keep its distance, and indeed it is. Svensson losing those units almost for free. APC taking absolutely no damage. Space having great control over here. He just needs to stay ahead of the curve. He just needs to watch where he goes. However, a couple more are moving in the south, so Svensson's going to need, Space is going to need to build a couple more units. Most of the disintegrators in the north have been destroyed, but Svensson is over here unoccupied. Might be able to go for a harvester over here, sitting inside the bay. Watchtower there on the front line should help. Doesn't look like the Sins are going to get taken out there. It looks like Space has the macro, and most importantly, he has the mines. Space making a pretty great defense with very, very small amounts of resources. All right, I gotta fly. We'll watch VOD. Happy casting, sir. Appreciate you joining the chat. And, of course, joining the stream. Looks like Space is also going to be the first to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium in the north. For those of you who don't know, I think this is Space's first appearance so far in the Chrono Clash. I've seen so many names I don't get to see too often, and I've seen a whole bunch of new names, so that's been pretty exciting. Harvester with a shielded harvester moving its way over here into the center, which means APC can start taking it down. However, I think it's trying to fight over this blue Tiberium, trying to get what gains it can, and indeed it's going to get some, making this trip a little bit less worth it for it. APC should have a hard time taking it out, but it won't be entirely impossible. It depends on how long it stays there. Svensson actually coming out ahead of the resource gathering despite taking damage from that APC. Rocket squads would have made a bigger difference there, but it doesn't matter as he escapes with plenty of time. That shield absolutely finding great value for him. Natural expansion being developed upon by both players. Drone ship in the south, MCV in the south for both players. It looks like they mirror each other on this map, going from main to natural to third for each player. Only a small amount of blue Tiberium in the north like we saw over that engagement. Both players trying to capitalize on that as quickly as possible. That bodes well for the length of this match. Both these players are probably going to do quite well. A couple of rocket squads being produced here for the defense, maybe going in a few of APC's. Shard Walker for Svensson making its way across the map into the blue Tiberium, crossing that threshold. Probably looking for a little bit of scouting to see what he can see. Space wasting a harvester, making his way over there to the left-hand side to this blue Tiberium and not able to grab really anything. Svensson mopping up what little resources are here, but not sure it's worth the trip, but maybe it's worth the denial. Command post out there on the natural expansion. APC is going to find this Shard Walker. Shard Walker probably needs to move a little bit forward if he's going to make his scouting worth it. Looks like he's going to get taken out for free, though. Rocket Squad's doing plenty of damage to it. Svensson, though, has plenty of time. His opponent is inside his own base, and it's going to be a while before he comes out. Does look like we got a growth stimulator for Svensson, so maybe he's expecting this long haul to happen. Would have been nice if he was planning for a long haul if he had gone for this Tiberium Spike. I know he wanted those much easier gains, but his opponent was just absolutely on top of it. Maybe he wasn't expecting that kind of consistency from Space. It did surprise me. I think I've only seen Space in like one other game. AP ammo out for the APC, which are going to complement these rocket squads quite nicely. Shardwalker's going to run into these units. Shardwalkers do a good amount of damage to these units, but I think they lose that engagement. A couple of them going down to half HP from the rocket squad. Svensson backing up his units here with a couple of Devourer tanks. At least 2 of them are charged. Those Devourer tanks will do decent into these APCs, and I think they might even one-shot them if they catch them. Svensson moving into the south. No one grabbing the contested Tiberium spike as Space continues to roll his way into his opponent's base. Only one Devourer tank is here. He does finally notice and he is going to go on the assault, but a Harvester might go down for it instead. APCs are going to get targeted, or are going to target it. Does look Devourer tank is going to take a couple of shots here and there. One Harvester does go down. That's unfortunate for Svensson. Devourer tank finally does get targeted. Finally does go down as well, which means these Harvesters are even more danger. Mine drop, double mine drop. They're right in front of their triple mine drop there in front of that building right there. Harvester getting so close to going down. Harvester getting destroyed right there. Svensson going on the assault there in the south, but it doesn't matter because Space is continuing his assault and his engagement on top of those Harvesters there, and it looks like Space has the defense. He has the Shatterers, and he's continuing his assault as another Harvester gets targeted. That might be 5 Harvesters taken down if he's not careful. Lightning Spike on the front line, but it's too little, too late as a full load of Tiberium goes down once again. That's a 4th Harvester. That's a 5th Harvester going down, probably followed by another Devourer tank. He cannot afford those losses, and the assault is not going as well for him in the south as probably he wanted. However, he does manage to get a couple of gains, but not quite the same amount of gains his opponent has. Space does need to up his defense just a little bit. Couple of Firehawks boosting their way. Not quite sure where. Going for these Devourer tanks might have been a bit nicer. A couple of tanks here on the front line. A couple of rocket squads might be even better. There is the repair there for those units. Svensson trying to make everything he can out of this assault, but he's losing units left and right. Sonic Emitter getting a really good shot off, dealing so much damage to those units while this assault continues over here on this side. Warp Sphere finally getting targeted by the rocket squad, stalling off of a couple of structures over here to try to mop this up, and Warp Sphere might actually go down. Rocket squads do manage to take it out. That was just a handful of APCs, and they did so much damage. They hurt Svensson so bad. Sonic Emitter also awesome on the defense there, destroying and dealing so much damage, that splash damage, that follow-through damage, that sort of trample damage, not sure what the proper term to call it is. Just did a whole bunch. Svensson actually throwing in the towel. Looks like Firehawks were able to destroy something there in the background that I missed. Either way, he's conserving his energy for the next round. Round number 2 takes place on Tiberium Rift. Over in the bottom right-hand side of the map, sticking with his pink, but switching to Nod, this is Svensson. His opponent from over in the top left-hand corner of the map in the cyan, playing the GDI. Give it up for Space. Space getting his first point in this match, pulling one off over on Svensson, having a great push while having also a pretty good defense as well, having 2 really good defenses. Just continuing to knock Svensson back over and over, coming out strong in the Chrono Clash 2. Quick item of note, Tiberium Rift is sponsored by Barracks Brew. Brewed in bulk, caffeinated by fear, and bold enough to make your rifles salute. A couple of scouts moving their way into the center of the map for Svensson. He's got to keep an eye on his opponent. Worrying about those APCs is definitely going to be something he's got to keep an eye out for. Only singular War Factory for his opponent. Looks like it's so far traditional openers for both. Focusing on those Harvesters, focusing on those refineries, getting that natural expansion developed as quickly as possible. Militant Squad's going to make their way in, getting their scouting out, but they're not going to be able to do the same kind of damage that GDI does. Rifleman squads for Space making their way into his opponent's base. It's going to be really important to see that. It's going to be really important to see what the transition is, if it's going to be double War Factory, if it's going to be an operations center. Hopefully that barracks gets down rather quickly. Hopefully Space is paying attention to that. Dealing a bit of damage to the MCV won't matter. There it is. There's going to be the foxhole here in a minute. Another power plant popping its way down as Svensson moves on to his natural expansion, followed closely behind Space. Space, of course, can see that everything at the same time. Looks like that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4th Harvester. I think Space might be behind on the Harvester front. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one. Yeah, it looks like he's a little bit behind Svensson. Svensson on top of it, trying to get what gains he can, trying to go maybe for a little bit of economy so he can continue his assault. Raider Buggy catching the scouts there for Space, which is going to be unfortunate for Space, so he's only going to have... No, actually, he's going to have 2 scouts still inside his opponent's base. He's already prepped a Rifleman squad here for this sector over here. So he's going to see any operation centers that decide to go up. He's going to be prepared for any of those sneaky tactics that Nod or Svensson specifically might pull out of their hat while being annoying, doing little bits of damage. Svensson already going on the assault, looking for a Harvester to snack on, but there's not going to be a Harvester here just quite yet. Looks like it's a little bit behind. Watchtower does get deployed. They're going to run right into these Pitbulls. Pitbulls should outnumber the bikes, as a bike does go down for free before it even really gets any significant shots off. Svensson already getting pushed out on his own assault rather quickly. Refinery out for both players, probably followed by a Harvester on each side. Pitbull here for the defense. Only 3 attack bikes and 1 Raider Buggy here ready to go. Attack bikes launch their assault, only dealing a small amount of damage to that Harvester, but it will add up if he continues to push a couple of forces over there. Looks like Svensson's not going too hard into this push. Looks like power plant's down to half HP. War Factory there on the natural expansion, so double War Factory so far, followed by double War Factory for his opponent. Pitbull's moving their way into the center of the map. It looks like somebody's been able to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium. Not sure who. If I were to guess, I would guess Space, but it's hard to tell one way or another. Svensson grouping up his forces over here in the south, preparing for the Pitbulls, making their way forward. He's got a couple more bikes out, and it should help even things up, but he needs to get a couple more Raider Buggies there. At the very least, he needs to force his Raider Buggies in the front. He can't afford taking these little bitty losses like he just did there. Those Pitbulls getting kills for free are going to mean he's going to lose the skirmishing phase almost entirely. More and more bikes going down. Space doing fantastic so far with the microing, dealing so much damage to Svensson. Svensson having 6 bikes over here in the north, but if he's not careful, they're going to get taken down. Pitbulls launching their volleys, but so do the bikes. One Pitbull goes down, followed by another bike. Pitbulls continuing their assault, going for bike after bike. They're going to be able to destroy a couple of them. Pitbulls might actually be in danger. Svensson finally getting a little bit of ahead of his opponent. Space losing all of his Pitbulls, and it's not over because there are 5 bikes there to make their way into the center of the map. The repair finally does come out for that power plant, costing Svensson just a little bit of money, but I think he's definitely made up for it with that engagement, with that assault. Space already preparing for the defense. Has got a couple of Predator tanks ready to go, which should do pretty good into that. They may not be able to keep up speed-wise with this bike and buggy, but they will be great on the defense. Looks like we got a command post there in the background, probably soon followed by a little bit of AP ammo. Harvester getting targeted, going down to half HP, but at the cost of a handful of bikes. Low power mode for the Watchtower. That's going to be really unfortunate. One does get sold off. Tanks do have to back their way up, but the Shatterer is here to deal even more damage. Space having the defense, Space having the transition, pushing Svensson out. Svensson trying everything he can to find a way in, to find a hole in his opponent's armor, and just not quite finding it. Space also ahead a little bit on the economy. He's doing all of the right things. Svensson needs to find greener pastures, and it looks like he is indeed trying that. There are a couple of defenses here in the north. Selling off of one of the refineries there in the north should help. Looks like something else is producing. Hopefully it's either a Shatterer or another tank to deal more damage. Power plant going down to about half HP. Space popping down the repair. APC moving its way forward to absorb the majority of the shots, which is exactly what it needs. 2 Shatters should be plenty here for the defense. They do get targeted. One does go down, but so do a good number of the forces there for Svensson. Svensson now in full retreat, having to make his way back to his base because it looks like Space is already inside his base, going for the Tiberium chemical plant. Chemical plant does go down, which means these Pitbulls are free to deal more and more damage. 1 tank here to add insult to injury. 1 Harvester going down. That's going to be unfortunate for him. Black Hand Squad's dealing a good amount of damage to these Pitbulls. Forces do finally go down, but not before the damage is dealt. Space doing a good job of pulling one over on Svensson, and most importantly, me too. I don't have Fog of War, and Space still managed to sneak those units across the map. Granted, Svensson's definitely been keeping the majority of my attention. Plenty of bikes over here ready to go into the center. It looks like they did get their upgrade there. Their tip core rockets. Hopefully Space has some sort of defense for it, has some sort of transition for that. Looks like he's going to go for the softer targets, go for this exposed Predator tank. Predator tank does go down, but that does mean Space knows that his opponent has tip core rockets, and he also knows where his forces are. Space continuing his assault, trying to put the tempo in his favor, trying to continue to move forward. Watchtower there on the front line, killing a whole bunch of these vehicles, a whole bunch of these attack bikes. Space continuing his assault and mounting a defense over here on that side. Silo here for the body block. Not enough forces here for the defense. There is a crane, so we might get a couple of Watchtowers. Space continuing his assault over on this side. It looks like Space actually was able to snap the Redeemer before it could even hatch. Watchtower popping its way down. Watchtower getting destroyed. Crane going down as well. Svensson still trying to get what gains he can out of these units. These tip core rockets are just so powerful. This third expansion might already be in danger, but Space has plenty of forces to continue his assault, and stopping that Redeemer is going to help out a whole bunch. MCV getting targeted. MCV going down for Svensson. Losing that is going to sting. Not only did he lose a Redeemer, he lost his construction yard on his way to his natural expansion. And he lost the assault over here, not able to keep up whatsoever, and Space is still inside of his base going for refineries. There are a good number of avatars out on the front line, and they should be able to collapse on this, but I think the damage is already dealt. Damage is already done. Another War Factory getting targeted. Another War Factory going to go down here quickly. Space just absolutely on top of it. Having plenty of Pipples here in the background. Probably going to produce a couple more Shatterers and Predator tanks here for the defense. One Avatar getting targeted. One Avatar going to go down here in a minute. But they should pick off the majority of the forces here for Space. Space losing that engagement, but finding so much value in those units. Not only killing an MCV, but also killing that Redeemer before it could even hatch. Man spam's going to be the name of the game, and why not? It looks like Space doesn't have an answer to that just quite yet as rocket squads make their way over onto their side of the map. Pitbull's making their way into Svensson's base, trying to go for the throat, trying to go for the economy. A couple of bikes here for the defense. They are getting a bit of repairs, but I think it's going to be too little too late. Harvesters have to back their way out. Svensson trying to save those, regrouping his avatars over there in the center, preparing for his assault, trying to keep these Pitbulls contained is going to be really important. Shredder Turret's going to do a good amount of damage to it, as a couple of Pitbulls do get picked off from behind. T3 does get spotted, so he knows where it's at, as the Pitbulls manage to focus on these bikes. The assault has begun in earnest as the man spam and avatars march their way across the map, running into plenty of these watchtowers, focusing on the harvesters, taking them down. Avatars are going to be a tough nut to crack for sure. Pitbulls over in the north finally getting taken down. This might be Svensson's chance to turn it around. This might be Svensson's chance to get a good kill. More and more watchtowers dying left and right. No railgun ammo for these Predator tanks. Avatars are going to be so hard to deal with. Silo there still for the body black, but it doesn't matter if they continue to walk their way around. Harvester after harvester goes down. Tank after tank goes down. These avatars are so powerful, and they're just marching their way into their base. It will be nice to see them get a couple of crushes, but it looks like they're not going to do it. More and more Predator tanks join the fray. There's the answer right there. Barracks producing a good number of these rocket squads. Rocket squads taking a good amount of damage. They do have to back their way out in order to avoid getting crushed there by the avatars. Another avatar does join the fray. A couple more rocket squads, but rocket squads die quickly to these AP watchtowers. Svensson might be in trouble. He needs to win this engagement, or he's going to lose yet another round. Another avatar goes down. Second avatar goes down. Third one probably soon to follow. Fourth one right behind it. Svensson just taking so many losses, and now these avatars are just free grabbing. There it is. He's throwing in the towel. Space has a 2-0 lead on Svensson. He's gonna need to turn things around, or he's gonna get knocked out of the tournament. Space doing fantastic so far for himself, especially for his first showing. Let's see how he fares in round number 3. Give me one moment. Svensson's back is against the wall on Hampstead Gardens. Over in the top right-hand side of the map, sticking with his GDI and playing green. This is Space. His opponent still for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner, sticking with his pink, but switching to Steel Talons. We have Svensson. Svensson hoping to tighten things up on Steel Talons, maybe build a little bit of a better snowball, not having maybe the luck that he needed with the Nod faction. So he's going for a little bit of the Snowball faction, which is Steel Talons. So if this progresses further into the late game, I think his armor's going to do quite well into his opponent. He's had a hard time dealing with all of the APCs in both round 1 and round 2. Space has just been fantastic at pushing those AP ammo APCs with rocket squads in them over and over, and just Svensson hasn't had a massive answer. And then, of course, he's had a hard time keeping Space out of his base entirely, losing a whole bunch in that last round, losing an MCV, losing that Reclamator hub, losing so much, just getting taken out rather quickly. Rifleman squads, a couple of scouts making their way on both sides. The scouts did die for Svensson, so we only got a little bit of a peek. Space might get a little bit of a better peek here in a minute and sneak those foxhole in. So far, he's been pretty consistent with getting a foxhole in and at least dealing some damage and being a pest. Hopefully, his opponent's a little bit more on top of it. MCVs, I think, for both sides. Yep, moving right on cue. 2 refineries and 5 harvesters. Looks like 4 so far, with the 5th one showing up there for Svensson. And I think looks like Space is a little bit behind on getting that harvester out. Nothing really to write home about, but is something to note, and it will have an exponential difference over time. Barracks there on the front line. Not sure what the plan is for that guy. Looks like it's rocket squads. Maybe he's expecting those APCs a little bit sooner. No, it looks like it's going to be rocket squads into MRTs, a more traditional strategy. I don't know why I didn't expect that coming. More and more MRTs running into the rocket squads, grabbing their forces. Those are going to be a pretty good answer into the APCs of his opponent. Not that he has AP ammo just quite yet, but that has been pretty consistent for Space. Space has gone into that over and over. MCV making its way over into the natural expansion for Svensson and for Space. Space just a little bit ahead, getting the refinery out just a little bit sooner. I guess significantly sooner. So if he can maintain that little bit of a lead. He was behind on Harvesters, but now he's up on refinery. Svensson is doing a bit better on the economy, having about maybe 500 in the bank extra per minute than his opponent in Space. Nothing really too major, but could make a difference if the game goes further. Looks like it's going to be mass producing of the tanks. Space trying to subvert those expectations and prepare for defense, maybe predicting a couple of looks like he did correctly predict these MRTs. MRTs taking their shots off. One actually moving forward a little bit too close, sort of going down there for free, getting destroyed there for free. That's going to be unfortunate. There's more to replace it, but he can't really afford those losses this early on, especially with dealing with these tanks. No one grabbing the EMP control center just quite yet. I think that EMP control center would be good for Space to grab if he can keep it alive, but he would have to defend it the entire time. EMPs work wonders on Steel Talon players, especially because they want to build this gigantic mecha armor snowball. And if you can EMP the whole thing, that goes so well for you. Another Watchtower does join the fray to kill this foxhole, but it forces it in the low power mode. There it is, another power plant there on the background. Those scouts do finally go down for Space, but that means Space has been able to keep an eye on his opponent for significantly longer than the other way around. Wolverines joining the fray, gonna make their way into Space's base here soon. Wolverine's not gonna do too much into really the tanks unless they get those AP ammo out sooner rather than later. Not sure if he's built it just quite yet. Yep, there it is. AP ammo about 60% or so done. Might be ready like 10 or so seconds into this. Ox carts actually grabbing a couple of these Predator tanks. Space being a bit cheeky over here, trying to push some Predator tanks into his opponent's base sooner rather than later. One Pitbull does get scouted and does go down, but he knows this assault is beginning in earnest. Harvester getting targeted as Svensson actually backs his way out. Ox carts maybe making their way out with a couple of these tanks, with a lot of these tanks actually. Predator tanks moving their way across the map quickly, going on the assault quite early. A couple of reinforcements here for Space. Full retreat there for the MRTs for Svensson. Tanks getting deployed. Tanks now inside this field, but rocket squads are definitely going to be the answer to that solution. Guardian Cannon going to help as well. Does look like one heavy harvester is going to go down for it, but the Mammoth tank is also going to help as well. Svensson having a much better transition than he normally does. No railgun ammo for these Predator tanks. There's only so much they're going to be able to do. Selling off of the barracks there rather quickly. Does look like Mammoth Tank is going to sandwich both of these units, and this assault is over before it's really even began. Only one Harvester going down for it. Svensson much, much tighter in his defense, doing a lot better. His opponent wasting so much money on Ox Carts. That might have worked against a lesser player, but Svensson is not going to allow it to happen. Space only needs 1 point, though, only needs one of these rounds in order to win, so maybe he's just trying to be a little bit ballsy, and indeed he has done that. A couple of APCs moving their way forward, getting a little bit of scouting out. Not sure why you would scout with the upgraded APC, but, you know, maybe he didn't have too many left. Foxhole sitting over on the opposite side of Svensson's expansion, maybe prepping for his opponent to hold it. MRTs and a couple of these units, as well as the Mammoth tanks with railguns, actually are going to go and get a free kill on that Harvester. Space can't really afford to take those losses right there. Rocket squads should do quite well into these units, but they won't do well into all of these Wolverines. Wolverines beginning to mop up the rocket squads left and right here and there, destroying them. Mammoth tanks should be plenty to deal with these Predator tanks, but this is still a lot of Predator tanks to deal with. Adaptive armor does pop up, and it does pop there for the Mammoth tank. Mammoth tank should still go down. Barracks still in the front line, which means more and more rocket squads are going to get produced, which are very, very good into all of these units. No more Wolverines here to mop them up. as the Predator tanks back their way out so the rocket squads can deal with the remainder of these units. Svensson does finally get pushed back, probably losing another Mammoth tank here rather quickly. Mammoth tank going down to less than half HP. Rocket squads not letting up their assault. One more Mammoth tank might just, yep, indeed, it's going to go down there rather quickly. Space moving his way across the map, destroying that foxhole, looking for greener pastures, looking for something to snack on, while continuing this slow march on this side and protecting his natural expansion. He did lose one harvester, but that's not going to make a massive, massive difference. Svensson needs to group up his forces, and indeed he is doing that. He's producing, it looks like, plenty of barracks, and it's going to be man spam and mammoth tanks. Svensson regrouping his forces over on the left-hand side, maybe thinking that he's going to have better luck with that engagement. Space splitting his forces, which would be good for Svensson if he was still marching his way over on the left-hand side, but it looks like he's going for the right instead. Either way, if he can catch these split forces, that'll be pretty decent for him. Rifleman squad should just manage to see them. Mammoth tanks moving on the other side, going to catch a couple of these tanks, should be able to destroy them, but the problem is going to be dealing with these rocket squads. Rifleman squad's moving their way forward, taking a couple of really good shots off on those units. Should be able to take them out rather quickly as the Mammoth tanks continue to roll their way forward. Over on the right-hand side, Svensson is doing the exact same thing on that side. Mammoth tanks should help support all of those units, killing out those squads left and right. Svensson winning this battle over here on the left side against Space, which means those units are free to roll their way up over there. Rifleman squads maybe not focusing on the target they need to over on this right flank, not going for those rocket squads, which they need to kill. It could have saved that Mammoth tank, but Mammoth tank died either way. Couple of hammerheads, no AP ammo just quite yet, but a couple of hammerheads out here should be able to help mop up all of these rifleman squads, which means they can produce a couple more rocket squads, which indeed is the plan. Rifleman squads finally dying. Rifleman squads finally going down over the left-hand side. This is truly turned into a tug of war. It can go either way right now. Space making some pretty good gains over on the right-hand side. It does look like, nope, he did not get railgun ammo, but his opponent did. Guardian cannon with railgun ammo. We don't get to see that too often, so that's definitely nice and exciting to see. Rifleman squads dying left and right. Hammerheads going down, at least one of them, but they don't care because their entire purpose is to kill these rifleman squads so the rocket squads can kill all of these mammoth tanks. These mammoth tanks are sitting duck, and they're going to go down pretty cheaply for them. Slingshots moving their way in, mopping up those forces. Does look like they're going to go for the crush as well. This could be Svensson's game if he's careful, if he plays his cards right. But just so many rocket squads being produced by Space left and right, while Space is continuing his assault over on the right-hand side. Svensson continuing his assault. These mammoth tanks just doing so much damage to his economy, destroying harvester after harvester. Space actually throwing in the towel right there. Maybe he lost just a little bit too much. Either way, that's going to give Svensson his first point. Things looking a little bit more up for Svensson. If he can continue those engagement, if he can continue those assaults on Space, he can manage to turn this around. Hopefully he's able to get some sort of reverse sweep. Either way, only time will tell. Give me one moment as we boot up the next round. Thank you for joining me on Tournament Dust Bowl. Over on the northern side of the map in the red, playing GDI, this is Space. His opponent still over in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, sticking with his pink, but switching to Skrin. We have Svensson. Svensson finally able to get a point on Space. His back is absolutely against the wall. He needs to win the next two matches. For those of you who don't know, this is a best of 5. So whoever gets to 3 first wins the whole Impalata. 2 safety Tiberium spikes over here for both players to grab, I believe. No, it looks like it's just 1. I thought there was 2 on this map. Not a contested one. There's an EMP control center in the center, but usually the ones that are dead center don't get grabbed too often. If it's like close to your base, people do manage to grab it, like Arabian Oasis, but the center ones get destroyed, I think, too easy. I think they're too exposed. I feel like maybe you need to up the armor on them, but I don't play Kane's Wrath as much, so I could be wrong there on the balancing. It seems like the players are mostly happy with those being in the center. Buzzer squad's making their way into Space's base. And I think Svensson... No, it looks like Space hasn't made his way into Svensson's base. Sorry, Svensson moving his way into Space's base. 2 refineries, War Factory out over here. It looks like 3 harvesters, probably followed by 4th for Space. Svensson's got the 4th one out and ready to go. Maybe he's going to take an economic lead here. He definitely needs to step things up into a player like Space. Space is turning out to be pretty solid player overall. Port Harvesters looks like it's going to be APC for Space. At least it's not GDI into Steel Talons. Sonic Emitters and Shatterers should do quite well into this faction, into Skrin. But will he get them out in time? Only time will tell. A couple of mine drops popping out. Maybe that was a misclick, not sure what that is, or maybe he's expecting some sort of assault. Either way, they did pop their way out. Looks like probably going to get a couple of rocket squads inside these APCs, and indeed that is the case. Space is going to try his tactic like from last time. APCs, the rocket squads, can be quite hard to deal with in the early game. Seeker tanks are going to be the answer to it. Gunwalkers definitely won't help too much unless you're able to destroy those APCs rather quickly. APCs are going to get spotted over here by the buzzer squads there for Svensson. Svensson doing a much better job on scouting than he did in previous games, and definitely doing a better job at scouting this game than he did the last game. Or than his opponent's doing, I guess I should say. Gunwalkers join the fray. Those will be good for absorbing damage, but they'll only be able to do so much damage to those APCs. It's going to boil down to the concave and where the formations sit when the fight starts, though, for sure. Looks like Space is the first to develop a refinery, and Svensson's a little bit behind on that front. APC is finally running into the Gunwalker. Gunwalker microing and backing its way out. Looks like APC still has plenty of soft targets to go for, but Gunwalker's coming out here in mass. Should be plenty to deal with just 4 APCs. Svensson mounting a much better defense than we've seen him do so far, so that's definitely exciting to see, at least for the moment. He seems to be shaping up a little bit tighter, seems to be doing just a little bit better than those last rounds. Maybe he's learned his lessons. Maybe he's learned that he cannot play with Space and he needs to go for some of the safer victories, and so far that has indeed been what he's been going for. A couple of scouts for Space making their way over to the other side of the map. Maybe Space is going to go for a bit of an easier target. Svensson having pretty good scouts, keeping decent vision all over the map. Gunwalker moving its way in. It's going to get destroyed, but it's going to buy time for the other Gunwalkers to make their way across the map. APCs, if they're not careful, going to run into the lion's share of all these units, and indeed goes down to already down to half HP. Space can't afford these mistakes early on as the APC does go down. Mine drop does pop out, but the unit does not make it. Space going for the Tiberium Spike over here in the south. It's going to give Svensson time to turn around and take them out. Will they be able to make it there in time? I don't think the damage is really here for the APC. APCs did grab AP ammo, which should help out a little bit. Svensson having to back out just a little bit, worried about this other singular APC with rocket ammo inside of it. Buying them a little bit more time to take out this Tiberium Spike. It might actually be just enough to take it out. However, that is one APC down, followed by the second one. There might be just barely enough damage, but no, the Rifleman squads are not enough to finish it off. That's going to be frustrating for Space. He got so close to taking out. One more rocket volley would have won him. There is a shield upgrade there for the Gunwalkers. Gunwalker's actually doing pretty well into the AP ammo APCs. I thought they would have fared a lot worse, but it looks like in the background the T3 and the Mammoth tanks are coming out there for Space. Svensson is following right in suit. He's got a tripod out and ready to go. That should definitely help. Got a lightning column and a stasis chamber with the nerve center and the T3. T3 already producing another upgrade there in the background. Should be ready to go here in a moment. Maybe the shields for the tripods. That would be nice. Looks like it is indeed going to be the shields for the tripods. Gunwalker making a little bit of scouting attempt over on the right-hand side. Predator tank's going to run into the Gunwalkers and the tripods. That's not what they want to do. They should get killed rather quickly if they're not careful. Most importantly, MCV moving its way forward. MCV having to stop and deploy. Svensson doing a good job of cutting off his opponent's expansion while expanding on his own end. Space almost pushed back entirely into his base if he's not careful. Mammoth Tank going to run into all of these tripods. Tripod's going to have a hard time dealing with the Mammoth Tank, but it should have enough focus fire to destroy him. One Mammoth Tank might go down here in a minute. One tripod does indeed go down. The shields are too strong to deal with a couple of orchestrates going in, taking a couple of good shots off on that tripod. Tripod going down to half HP. More and more low power for this construction yard, stopping whatever's building there in the background. Maybe a sonic emitter. Who knows? Either way, it cannot get it off just quite yet. Tripod maybe finally going down. There it is. It's getting taken down. Lightning Spike out there on the front line. Svensson absolutely on top of it, having the focus fire. He may be able to pull one over on Space. We might end up in a tie breaker match here quite soon. construction yard, going to low power mode over and over and over, getting EMP'd by something. Not sure if that's a gunwalker ability or what's doing that. Either way, that's extremely frustrating to have to deal with as it gets targeted down and destroyed. There's just nothing Space can do. Space is absolutely on his back foot, and losing this construction yard is going to cost him so much with everything on the front lawn. Svensson finally getting everything together. Svensson finally able to tie up the score 2-2. That means both players' back is against a wall, and we're moving into match point for our next round. Wow, fantastic. I just realized my mic was off that entire time. Great. I was talking absolutely to myself, so enjoy the silence, I guess. I'll have to re-record that in post. That's probably why I lost one of my viewers there in the background. Either way, some of the things that I was saying is that the economy has been a bit stronger on Svensson's side, but not so much on Space. Space doing really well in the beginning, really well with surprising, but Svensson doing significantly better at adapting. The more and more the games go on, the better and better Svensson seems to be doing overall. A couple of MRTs out for Svensson, probably a couple of rocket squads going inside of them to prepare for those APCs. It's going to do well into APCs, going to do well into Predator tanks. So far, Space hasn't mixed up his build too much, hasn't mixed up his strategy, which has given Svensson plenty of time to catch up in this match points. Does look like the scouts have made it in on both sides. Scouts making their way over into Svensson, but the same cannot be said over for Svensson into Space's base. So Space could be cooking something up, and Svensson doesn't even know it's coming. However, Steel Talons wants to go for these long games, which I feel like would influence the scouting just a little bit more. MRT is going to run into a couple of rocket squads, and most importantly, these Predator tanks going to back their way up into the Predator tank or into their pit bulls. They have enough firepower now to punch through these tanks here for Space. This could be over quickly if Space is not careful. Looks like it's double War Factory here for Svensson. He's going for early game production, while his opponent hasn't done quite the same. Watchtower there on the front line. Tanks engaging, getting a free kill there on the pit bull. They can't really afford those losses, but it looks like Svensson's going to go for the throat early on. Going to go for the Harvester, but he's definitely going to take some damage for it. He can continue the skirmishing as long as the MRTs back their way out in time. Couple of, looks like Harvester's going to move their way forward, absorbing a couple of the shots, but going to get destroyed for it. Svensson starting out strong, going after Harvester after Harvester. That might be a third Harvester to go down, which means if he loses the majority of his forces, which are going to be hard for him because the MR2s are going to constantly repair there in the background, he can just keep going in and out with these skirmishing tactics with these Steel Talons factions. But that's exactly what you want to see for Svensson. That's exactly what he wants to do as Steel Talons, especially early on. A lot of Steel Talon players start out rather slow and don't do too much with their MRTs, which is, I feel, a bit of a mistake. You can do exactly what Svensson's doing right here. You can pair up these pit bulls with these MRTs with rocket squads inside of it, and you could do so much damage. I think they actually probably want this assault. MRT's trying to avoid it. Looks like he's splitting up his forces. A couple of pit bulls going there in the north. Those tanks are going to have a hard time keeping up. Pit bulls going for a Harvester, it looks like. They're going to be able to target and get a couple of shots off, but now it's going to be pit bull versus pit bull, but the numbers are definitely in Svensson's side. MRT's getting chased back fully into their base, but I'm not sure he cares as he starts picking off these pit bulls, as he starts going for these units left and right. Watchtower there on the front line here for the defense should help. Titan should help with this defense over here. Mine Drop going to do plenty of damage to that Predator tank. Predator tank going to go down rather quickly as the pit bulls make their way over to regroup with a couple of these forces, maybe pushing out these Predator tanks. Predator tanks looking for greener pastures to go for. Svensson trying to mirror them, trying to follow them while keeping up the assault with these pit bulls over here in the south. Looks like the southern base is exposed over here. Titans making their way down below. Looks like Space is trying to go for an easy victory, trying to go for this Predator tank, but this easy victory might turn into a bit of a trap for him, as he's not even turning his attention on these units whatsoever, focusing on that Tiberium spike. He's going to lose a couple of units for it if he's not careful. However, the damage is not here just quite yet for Svensson. Tib Spike getting close to getting taken down, but almost only counts on horseshoes, hand grenades, and nukes. Doesn't count this time. Titan's getting targeted. That it needs to be their primary target. One Titan does go down. MRT's taking a little bit of damage. Another Titan might go down here in a minute. Focus fire much better on Space's side. Space doing a whole bunch just with a couple of these tanks while grabbing blue Tiberium as well. Another Titan going down. Mine Drop popping its way down. MRT going down. Getting destroyed. Couple of scouts over here for Svensson moving their way in. Svensson losing that engagement, losing those expensive units. Space needs to make his way back to his base. A couple of Pipples taking a couple of free shots, trying to shift the tempo back in their favor, maybe trying to divert some of the forces over here. No response yet, so Svensson's going to continue his assault and is now harvesting a little bit of the center of the map. MCV moving its way forward, probably soon to follow by a refinery. It looks like he's a bit behind Space on the move forward into the center. Space still no response there to the Tiberium Spike. Probably wanting to focus all his attention on controlling the center of the map, which will be more valuable than that Tib Spike. Reclamator Hub out on the front line. Will it have time to build? Svensson's already here on the front line, so that's going to be hard to deal with. Sonic Emitter down the front line does look like it takes a couple of pot shots there as the Tib Spike does go down. No, it's still alive. It looks like the repair's keeping it alive a little bit longer than I expected. Mammoth Tank for Svensson moving its way forward, maybe to its doom. That's not quite what it wants to do. Another one is going to join the fray, but these two Mammoth Tanks, especially once the railgun ammo does pop off, means they're going to get this kill almost for free. There it is. Low power mode for the Sonic Emitter. Sonic Emitter getting on the front line. Sonic Emitter taking its first shot off on the Mammoth Tank. Mammoth Tank should win that engagement. Tiberium Spike finally going down, maybe slowly going down there on that side. Marv getting close to being produced. Yep, it's getting really, really close to there. It looks like the barracks is already out and ready to go. Engineer or Zone Troopers producing there in the background. Tib Spike finally going down there. Should help if this game goes into a later mode. A little bit of a weird scan there. Maybe he was expecting his forces to be grouped up over there, but they were not. Rocket Squad's joining the fray, padding out the formations here for his opponent. Zone Troopers inside of the Marv. Mammoth Tanks moving their way forward. Marv going to continue moving forward as well. Marv is seeing up some of the resources, trying to get a little bit more gains there. Space absolutely 2K ahead, which is going to be helpful. And one Harvester almost going down there for free to the Mammoth Tanks, but now the Mammoth Tank is the one in danger as the Rocket Squad's dealing so much damage, taking it down to half HP. Two Engineers joining the Marv. That's going to help it even more. Sonic Emitter on the front line, going to be good into these infantry, but not quite in range where it needs to be. MCV moving its way forward there for Svensson. This can still go either way, but I think it favors Space, at least for the current moment. Sonic Emitter taking a couple of good shots off on these units. Pretty decent EMP there, locking down the Marv, which is exactly what they want. Locking down the Sonic Emitter. Another Sonic Emitter there in the front line, shooting through the Marv. Not sure if friendly fire is a thing, but either way, Marv is going to go down rather quickly. It's going to follow up by a couple losses here for Svensson. Svensson's going to lose a few of these Mammoth Tanks. Juggernauts joining both sides. Behemoth joining the side on Svensson. A couple of Pitbulls dying there for free, running directly into the Sonic Emitter. Juggernauts wasting a few shots on these Rifleman squads. Behemoths now can target the Juggernauts because of those Rifleman squads. So that's going to be useful for them. Harvester going down there for Space. Space is going to afford these losses if he doesn't have too many of them. Maybe another Marv being built there in the background. Either way, Behemoth or Juggernaut going down, Harvester going down. Behemoth's just doing so much damage. Space actually sneaking in to Svensson's base. I missed this entirely. Once again, these Predator tanks with railgun ammo just doing so much damage. Not only mopping up the old main base, but going for the secondary natural expansion, doing so much damage. But I think Svensson has the time to waste. He's going to move forward, trying to press his luck, trying to get a little bit of advantage. A couple of Zone Troopers here. Hopefully they'll jump forward and go on those Behemoths. The Behemoths are such a massive problem. Sonic Emitter getting targeted, but Sonic Emitter getting good shots off on the Behemoths and the Mammoth Tanks. Assault continuing over here on the left-hand side for Space. Space might have this in the bag. Svensson is in danger as two Behemoths go down, leaving only a handful of them left, and now Space can just roll his way into his opponent's base. Another Behemoth getting taken down. That's probably his final lifeline, as I think Svensson's going to be knocked out of the tournament. Svensson might have some trouble. I'm not sure where he's at in the elimination bracket. Either way, losing this is going to sting. Space coming out strong. Space doing so much damage and being a very solid fighter in all of this. Space is indeed going to take the victory. I got to make a mental note to re-record that first little part of the match when my mic was muted that entire time. Match number 6, round 1, takes place on Badland Hills. Starting us over in the top right-hand corner of the map in the purple, rocking the black hand. Give it up for Masterleaf. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map in the yellow, rocking the GDI. This is Senna. Senna into Masterleaf. This should shape up to be quite a good match, I suspect. Only time will tell if that statement is true.
quick item of note, Badland Hills is sponsored by War Crime Waffles. Toasted to perfection, banned in 5 countries, and served with plausible deniability. Might get to see a little bit of war crimes in this match. Only time will tell that once again. Master Leaf is one of these cheeky players. He likes his weird tactics, and a lot of times they work out for him. Master Leaf already starting off with a little bit of rush, has a Reckoner out and ready to go. Black Hand Squad inside of that. Not sure if he's been able to sneak a Flame Tank in around anywhere just quite yet. Looks like it's going to be double Black Hand inside the Reckoner Rush, maybe producing a Flame Tank. The scouts for Senna might catch this, but it doesn't look like he has anything in the south to prepare for this, so Master Leaf could end this rather quickly. Rocket Squad's already taking a little bit of free damage here on the Harvester, so that's going to be a little bit annoying to. Reckoner's already passed the threshold, already passed the Rubicon, making his way into his opponent's base. Looks like maybe he's going to go up and around. That is going to expose him a little bit, which is going to be unfortunate. Guardian Cannon there on the front line. A couple of tanks here for the front line. They do get deployed rather quickly. The Black Hand Squad should make quick work of this refinery. Refinery going down quite quickly. It's going to get destroyed here. There it is. It's gone down, going for maybe the Guardian Cannon. Not sure that's going to be worth it. Black Hand Squads, at least one of them does pop their way out. Predator Tank going for the crush. Rocket Squad's trying to save it. Looks like both Black Hand Squads do manage to make it out. Just barely. Going for a free kill, going for that garrison, and actually popping their way inside that garrison. Master Leaf making fantastic use of this, popping both Black Hand Squads in over here, buying himself even more time. Master Leaf able to grab that refinery. Is going to make a difference in the early game, that is for sure. And indeed, he's about... No, actually, he's behind because of that rush. APC getting targeted. APC getting so close to going down, but just not quite enough damage is being dealt to it. Garrison finally dying in the north, forcing those Black Hand Squads to run away. I would say it would be nice to see for the Black Hand Squads go for that Tiberium Spike there to add even more insult to injury, but maybe he's just trying to get them out to reuse them later. Master Leaf sneaking around his Black Hand Squads in the south, keeping them a couple more over here in the north, maybe looking for greener pastures, try to go for something. Nobody's grabbed EMP control centers either on both sides or those defensive towers just quite yet. Looks like the garrison structure did finally die. Predator tanks getting a pretty good crush in. APC's going for these Black Hand Squads. That should be plenty of damage to knock those out. Black Hand Squads in the north looking for another snack to grab onto. Harvester should be able to go for the crush, but it doesn't matter because it looks like the watchtower's out. Master Leaf producing a couple of bikes ready to go, making their way into the northern section of the map, into the center of the map. Gonna waste a couple of their shots, maybe, unfortunately. No, actually, the control is here. Predator tank's gonna go down, but it looks like Rifleman squads, and maybe that tank were enough to destroy at least one of those, which means it's gonna take more than 2 sets of volleys from these 4 units. Not if they go for the tib spike. There's the 5th one to join the fray, which means 2 volleys will destroy one of the harvesters if they're not careful. APC moving its way forward, but only going to do nominal damage to that tib spike, getting so close to getting taken down. That would be nice to be able to capitalize on that. More and more bikes join the fray. Master Leaf trying to keep up the pressure, trying to get what gains he can, but might lose a couple of bikes here for it. One APC does get a kill on one of the bikes, and it looks like the majority of the bikes do make it out in time. Black Hand Squad somehow managing to survive. Master Leaf playing Ring Around the Rosie, garrisoning his troops once again, keeping those units alive, distracting a few units here and there. That's going quite great for him, moving a couple of man spam into the center of the map along with these rocket squads, defending his 3 harvesters, going for blue Tiberium, trying to catch up, and it looks like he's actually 1k ahead of the economy. Losing that refinery's definitely got a sting. Watchtower going down for free. Garrison structure finally getting targeted, but Black Hands are probably going to do a little bit more skirting around. And while those forces are diverted over there, Black Hand's going to move in the south. Black Hand infantry is going to move in the south, I should say. Black Hand squad's still alive somehow. Actually having almost heroic. Plenty of watchtowers here for the defense, though. Senna moving in a couple of scouts, trying to see what Master Leaf is cooking up. Not a crazy amount is being cooked up. Harvester going down to half HP, but that's not going to matter too much. APCs with APM are definitely going to mop up these units as well as with these hammerheads, but that means the jig is up and the airfield has been scouted. Black Hand Squad's dying left and right. Master Leaf might lose his construction yard if he's not careful.
Two SAM turrets there on the front line are going to be nice, but it's not going to answer the problem, which is going to be these APCs. Hammerhead's going down, but maybe the goal is to just mass produce a good chunk of these units. There's the upgrade there. No, actually not the upgrade. Yeah, there's the upgrade there for the Shredder turrets. Particle Charge beam should make a pretty big difference here if Master Leaf can get more and more defenses out on the front line, and there it is. They're just absolutely littering the ground, preventing these APCs from making the movements that they want, and it looks like Master Leaf does indeed have the damage. Those Black Hand Squads are still alive there in the north somehow. APCs finally doing a little bit of damage, but not going for what they need to. A little bit of one click there, dealing in small amounts of damage to those APCs. Senna losing all of these units almost for free. Master Leaf was in danger there for a minute, but he turned that into a pretty great defense. I thought he was going to lose his MCV. Redeemer Engineering Facility there on the front line. Redeemer already being produced. It looks like it's going to be a bit behind the Marv. Hammerhead's not having as much effect as maybe Senna was wanted. Senna transitioning into Gunwalkers. Not a bad idea considering this is going to turn into a slugfest for the center of the map. Two-handed nods there on the front line. Reclamator Hub there on the front line. Does look like we've got tip core rockets here for the attack bikes. Attack bikes out and ready to go. Bike and Buggy a little bit late in the game, but they deal quite the punch. And most importantly, they're going to divert attention. Harvester getting targeted. Harvester going to go down. These tip core rockets should do plenty of damage to it, as it just barely doesn't do enough. But Master Leaf's able to get a one-click there on the refinery, destroying a second refinery. A couple of bikes are going to die down for it. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get that Harvester. That would have been a little bit nicer, but Master Leaf not wanting to fully commit to that. Sounds like the Marv has popped its way out. Redeemer following suit. Two engineers look like already out here ready for Senna. Senna being pretty up on the intake of getting those zone troopers and having those engineers out ready to go as soon as possible. Looks like Raider Buggies have their EMPs, which can lock down those Marv and deal quite a significant amount of damage. There is the artillery strike, killing a good chunk of all of this, it looks like. Hammerhead's moving their way in. Marv moving its way in. Redeemer needs to move its way north in order to prepare for this assault. He's got to tighten up his defenses a little bit as these Juggernauts are going to continue taking shots here in the background. Hopefully the Bike and Buggy, if they're still around, are going to make their way around. They need to destroy not just these Harvesters, but they need to go for these Juggernauts, especially because these Juggernauts are exposed in an unfortunate position. Juggernaut's not quite good into the man spam. Man spam going to push out the Marv somehow. Black Hand Squad's moving their way forward. Looks like that other Black Hand Squad did not make it too heroic. Redeemer moving its way forward. Hopefully it's going to get its Rage Gen in range for these Juggernauts. Juggernauts in full retreat. Marv in full retreat. Master Leaf controlling the center of the map, controlling two of these massive tib fields, which means he just needs to build a little bit of time. Time is definitely on his side, but he's going to continue his assault. Sounds like a little bit of a one-click there in the background, getting a couple of those forces, but it's not going to matter as the Marv gets targeted. I think they need to go for these Juggernauts instead. I don't think you're going to kill the Marv, but maybe Master Leaf knows something I do not. Spectre tanks over here in the background to add more damage. It looks like they're going to go for the Juggernauts instead, while the Marv continues to take damage. One Juggernaut finally going down, another one taking splash damage. MCV for Senna moving its way forward. He's got to contest the center of the map. He can't let Master Leaf just sit here forever. Two engineers inside of that Redeemer, which means it's going to absorb as many shots as it possibly can. Juggernaut's in an unfortunate position. Their positioning just hasn't been super great as these units just managed to destroy them over and over. Artillery being much stronger on the Nod side, which is normally not the case. 2-3 Juggernauts going down. Marv getting targeted. Marv at half HP. No rage in. Massive, massive EMP by the Raider Buggies moving their way in, locking down the majority of these units. War Factory out of the front line, laser fence on both units, but they're going down just as quickly. Watchtowers there to mop up some of the man spam, but it doesn't matter. There's not really an answer to these Spectres. Spectres just absolutely wrecking everything in their path. A couple of units going down. These Spectres just doing so much damage. Juggernauts trying what they can to deal more and more damage. Mass producing Juggernauts looks like it's definitely going to be the name of the game. Marv down to less than half HP. Redeemer same way, but just a little bit ahead. Plenty of SAM turrets here on the front line, making those Air Forces absolutely useless. Barracks there on the front line. Black Hand Squad moving their way in, taking out one of those Watchtowers. Spectre tanks wiping up the other ones over on that side. Master Leaf can afford these trades. He just has so much economy. He's got 18k to 15k. That's 3k, but Master Leaf can do a lot with a 3k lead, and indeed he is doing so. Two Watchtowers going down on the front line. Marv now in danger. Spectre tanks moving their way forward. Redeemer moving its way forward. Redeemer having a bit more HP. Juggernauts now in danger. Barracks going down, which means they can't pad the stats with infantry. They're going to have a hard time dealing with this. War Factory there on the front line. Rage Gen popping off, making most of these Juggernauts destroy each other. Such a massive, massive Rage Gen, and now the focus focus fire can happen on these Juggernauts. That's 5, 6, 7 Juggernauts going down, probably followed by 8 here in a minute. That's so many husks there in the background. I think this is all but over. Almost complete to add insult to injury. Marv down to half HP. Construction yard getting targeted. I think this is over for Senna. Senna trying everything he possibly can to stay in this game, but it doesn't matter because Match Leaf can afford these trades. Airfield on the front line for some reason as the construction yard goes down. Marv doing absolutely nothing. No Juggernauts here for any of this. I think this is all but over for Senna. I don't see a way he can come by. Master Leaf just is entrenched so heavily. He has so many forces, and he's just this snowball continuing to move its way forward. Senna's making a little bit of last charge, moving his harvesters in to absorb some of the shots and try to get the crushes, but they're not able to get it. Last Juggernaut getting targeted. Last Juggernaut going down. The only thing that's left is this Marv. It's a little over half HP, but I'm not sure how much that's going to matter. Harvesters now having a full long-distance harvest for themselves so far. Laser fence there for the War Factory. Not sure what Senna's thinking. I don't see really any way he can stop even this man spam. I don't know if he got the Redeemer there in the background or where the Redeemer rolled off to. Marv marching its way into all of these units. Actually able to get a little bit close there, and there it is. Senna's finally thrown in the towel, giving Master Leaf the first fight. Either way, that definitely turned into a bit of a heavyweight match. Definitely pretty exciting to see, but Master Leaf's control of the center of the map really made the difference. He was able to capitalize on those gains early on, even though a couple of his rushes didn't work quite the way he wanted. He was able to delay a lot of the structures there for Senna. Let's see how things shape up in round number 2. Give me one moment. Master Leaf starts out Tiberium Rift with a point lead. Over on the left-hand side of the map, we have Master Leaf switching up his color and switching up his faction to, I believe, this is Traveler. Yeah, you got it right there. Traveler 59. Moving over to the orange. Over in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, playing GDI this time, this is Senna. Although I guess he was probably playing GDI last time. Master Leaf already starting out cheeky. He's building up his fast legs. He's got his descents. No double portal. Senna might be able to see this coming, I believe. Yeah, he does indeed see this coming. Master Leaf trying to go for it, but that does mean the jig is up, and he's lost the element of surprise. There's the fast legs. Those will definitely help, but that's going to give plenty time for these watchtowers out, ready to go. Looks like they're going to rush for this. Yeah, they're going to get the buzzer squads, just barely. Barracks there on the front line. Should be plenty to deal with all of that. There should be 3 rifleman squads here to start picking out the forces of their opponent. Rifleman squads getting a little bit too close to these buzzer hives. If they're not careful, they're going to get out-microed and destroyed. Master Leaf not able to find the purchases that he needed with those, with that small rush. At least he didn't go double portal. He also didn't build another refinery there in the background, and that's going to give Senna a little bit of an economic lead. Master Leaf moving there in the north with his descents with fast legs, trying to outmaneuver these rifleman squads, but it's going to be hard because they have to go around a literal mountain to do so. Drone ship making its way into the natural expansion. Looks like natural expansion not being developed upon yet by Senna, but Senna doesn't really need to. I think he's going to have plenty of an economic lead here in a minute. Watchtower there on the front line. One harvester getting targeted, going down to half HP, losing that full load is definitely going to sting. There it is. Master Leaf was able to find a little bit of purchase in this rush. Able to make it worth it for himself as one unit does get a rank up, as one harvester with full Tiberium does go down. Senna needs to tighten his defenses up a little bit. Buzzer squad's joining the fray here in a minute. One buzzer squad sitting inside the garrison, giving a little bit of scouting there for Leaf. Leaf actually no longer keeping up with his opponent. Looks like Senna's about 500 per minute ahead of Master Leaf. Master Leaf sneaking around the mountain once again. If Senna's not careful, he might lose this MCV to all of these units. Here they go. They move in their way, and there's a couple of rifleman squads here, and it does get deployed right in time. Leaf wanting that juicy target, but falling for the bait. Senna was prepared for it. Senna was watching his MCV like he should. Second refinery kind of in a suboptimal spot over here. But maybe that was all, maybe that was the only place that Master Leaf could place it down. He should be catching up in economy here in a little bit. Master Leaf maybe going for the softer target, taking the Tiberium spike down to about half HP. Rifleman squads going down. It would be nice to see these buzzer squads popping their way out, but it doesn't matter, I guess, because if those get the kill there. A couple of descents left to deal damage to that Tiberium spike. Losing it won't be the biggest thing, but at least it'll be a little bit more of a purchase there for Master Leaf. He's going to find a little more value. But it doesn't matter crazy amounts. Buzzer squad moving its way in. Buzzer squad getting taken out. Rifleman squads plenty on the defense. Rifleman squads for Senna. Jeez. Rifleman squads for Senna moving into Master Leaf's base, doing a little bit of scouting out, and may as well because you need to know what Master Leaf is up to. He's definitely one of those cheeky players. I feel like he would do quite well with Nod, but I think he likes the subversion of expectations and doing the weird stuff with a couple of other faction. And he's definitely, this is his comfort faction for sure. Looks like scouts did make it all the way into the main base there for Master Leaf. Master Leaf finally developing his natural expansion. Not too far, at least behind on development of the natural expansion. Senna's got 2 harvesters and 1 refinery, followed there closely behind for Master Leaf. Master Leaf getting that harvester might have made a little bit of a difference and helped him out there. Looks like the tip spike did manage to make it through, probably getting a little bit of repairs there from Senna. Somebody's already grabbed Tiberium in the center. Not sure who that was. Watchtower able to pick off the last little remaining descents there for Master Leaf. Harvester moving its way into the center of the map, but there shouldn't be very much blue Tiberium there whatsoever. I could be wrong here. Maybe there's a little bit of a bug with what I'm seeing. Maybe a client-side bug or something. But Leaf's going to move in there either way. Looks like, yeah, someone's definitely had to have grabbed it because that should have been a full load by now. Possibly Senna. Senna producing his airfield, has his 1-click making their way across the map. Gunwalkers are going to see that, which means they're going to know that the airfield has been built. 1-click giving Master Leaf just a little more resources there in that natural expansion. I think this is going to boil down to who expands into their 3rd expansion first. So far, actually, it looks like it's Master Leaf. Master Leaf making great use of outposts, already setting that up, which means he can build a refinery there in the background and not have to risk his MCV if he needs to. Gunwalker moving its way in, going to do a bit of scouting there, going to see exactly where the airfield is. No AP. No, actually, we do have AP ammo out here. Master Leaf knocking a couple of hammerheads out of the sky, but these APCs with AP ammo should do plenty of damage to these Gunwalkers. Gunwalkers, in combination with this Lightning Spike, are going to at least take out one of the APCs. Another one does die sort of on their way over. Outpost getting targeted, outpost getting destroyed. That's going to be a costly mistake there for Master Leaf. Didn't have enough defenses there and wasn't paying too much of attention. Shatterers making their way into the center of their map, maybe trying to tie up some of these gains. Master Leaf finally moving a good chunk of these Gunwalkers here. Gunwalkers should do a decent amount of damage to these APCs. APCs are going down. He's doing a fantastic job of knocking these out, getting in really good focus fire as the APC's numbers begin to dwindle, although it would have been nice if he was able to get that one, but I don't think the range was there for it, and I think the APCs might be a little bit faster. No? I need to look at the speed values to see who is faster in that. That's another thing I need to add to my massive spreadsheet in order to help me out on which one's faster, a Gunwalker or a APC, and like how much faster I feel like would be important information. Shatterer taking a couple good shots off on one of the Gunwalkers, taking it already down to half HP. APC is getting caught. That's going to be really unfortunate there for Senna. Senna can't afford taking these losses this early in the game. However, these Zone Troopers, if they can get close enough, can deal a good chunk of damage to all of these Gunwalkers, but it's going to be a lot to deal with. A couple of slingshots here on the front line, maybe expecting some air forces here for Master Leaf, and indeed, Master Leaf does have them. Storm Column with a couple of, I believe those are called Storm Riders there for that faction, if I can click on it. Yep, Storm Riders. Gunwalkers making their way into the base. If they go for that that Juggernaut, maybe they don't have the damage there for it, or they're worried about getting taken out too quickly. Master Leaf actually in a little bit of a bad spot here. Mechapede getting so close to dying. Shatterer almost killing it, but Master Leaf having the better micro, staying alive with just barely any HP whatsoever. I just realized how weird the heads look when it's just the head. It's just like 2 little legs. Speaking of legs, we do have a tripod out on the front line. It's going to be able to make its way into that Shatterer. Hopefully be able to snipe that Shatterer. Does do a little bit of damage to it. Hammerhead is going to be trouble, but Master Leaf has the answer, which is going to be those Gunwalkers. Looks like we actually got an early Marv over here for Senna. Senna's got that out and ready to go, which means this tripod has gone from predator to prey rather quickly. Mechapedes are going to be the transition for Master Leaf, Mechapedes and Storm Riders. I think I heard Bike Rush say that Storm Riders aren't good unless they're in like massive numbers, like somewhere between 12 and 20. Don't quote me there, but I believe that's what he said. Either way, we'll get to see how Master Leaf does use them. Slingshots moving their way forward. Unfortunately, to their doom, going to get destroyed here by the Mechapedes. They do have enough range to make their way out. More and more Mechapedes should be building up in the background. Looks like Senna's going to be the first to grab, or second to grab, a little bit of Tiberium there in the center of the map. Master Leaf has developed his third expansion along with Senna. Senna doing a good job keeping that up. Master Leaf following suit with their T3 units, getting a free kill on that slingshot, and most importantly, getting a little bit of cash there for the Eradicator Hexapod. Looks like we're going for a more aggressive Marv. There's 3 zone troopers inside instead of 2. Master Leaf sneaking a couple of these guys through their, I forgot the name for a minute, Mechapeds through his opponent's line, and now they're just going to be sitting here in the background getting a bunch of free damage going for Harvesters, and indeed that does appear to be what they're going for. Master Leaf does have a little bit of lead on the economy. If he can tighten it up by destroying a couple more Harvesters, that will definitely benefit him. Plenty of tripods here in the south. Eradicator Hexapod holding down the northern section of Master Leaf's base. Not sure if there's a Prodigy here just quite yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Prodigy floating around in the background, so that unit can get its blink back. Juggernauts, APCs, and Shatterers. Looks like that's going to be the transition there for Senna. That's going to be a good combination. Senna keeping up the scouting, moving even more scouts in, dealing a little bit of damage to the Extractor, but he just wanted to see what was up, and indeed he did see everything that's there. Not enough Storm Riders here really to write home about. Maybe Master Leaf started that engagement on it and then decided to back off. Hard to tell. Eradicator Hexapod getting a little bit of skirmishing done over on the northern side of the map. Senna might be in a bit of trouble here as Master Leaf makes his way over to his southern expansion. Gunwalker's sort of just sitting here waiting for a couple more forces to regroup. If they play their cards right, they can catch these units in an awkward position, hopefully catch these Juggernauts, but it looks like Master Leaf's not paying attention. He does back out in time. Eradicator Hexapod moves its way forward and then backs out once it sees that Marv, or maybe predicts the Marv. Master Leaf still having these Mechapeds available, going for this old main base, destroying Harvester after Harvester. Every one of those Harvester kills is going to make those Mechapeds just a little bit more worth it. Lightning Spike here on the front line. Storm Riders getting a full scope of what they're going to run into, seeing that there are 3, 4, 5, 6, I think that numbers are hard. Yeah, it looks like 6 Juggernauts there to deal with. Lightning Spike going down rather quickly. Master Leaf needs to group up his forces, I think, in the south. He's going to have to answer that. He's going to have to deal with that rather quickly. Storm Riders taking out the Hammerhead, probably allowing the Mechapeds to move their way forward. Master Leaf probably using a Prodigy here to grab 2 of these Juggernauts. That's going to be really unfortunate for them. Prodigy popping in a portal. Prodigy popping somewhere. It looks like it's going over here for the T3. Grabs the T3, probably forces the sell-off, or maybe holds onto it. Not sure what the plan is. A couple of tripods are now behind enemy lines. Senna's got to turn his way around. He's got to stop his assault as the AP ammo goes down, as the sell-off happens for that. Master Leaf goes back to safety, netting himself 3,000 for free. Prodigy finding great effect, not only grabbing a couple of Juggernauts, but also grabbing that. That might spell the doom for him. There's the one click there, giving time for these Devastator warships to pick off a couple of the APCs. Juggernauts marching their way forward. Senna is not grouped up maybe where he needs to be. Mechapeds sort of maybe just getting forgotten over here because the primary fight, the main course, is on this side. A couple of Corruptors have joined the fray to support that Eradicator Hexapod. Eradicator Hexapod can get the blink forward from the Prodigy if it's paying attention, although it might walk into its own one click. Looks like he just stays outside of it just barely. Gunwalker's taking a bit of damage. There is the one click going for all of those Corruptors, going for exactly what it needs there. There's the stasis there for the Eradicator Hexapod, which means it's going to be uncontested, marching its way into these Juggernauts, going for exactly what it wants to do. If the Juggernauts are not careful, it's going to get the crush over there. Eradicator Hexapod just marching its way in. There it does. Gets 1, maybe 2 crushes right there. One does go down for sure. Stasis Field keeping this thing alive. Juggernauts not doing quite what they need to. Devastator warships just doing so much damage. Master Leaf in top form. EMP happening there on the Marv. Really not sure what Skrin is doing there to lock down those Mars, but it's nice to see Stasis Field finally up for this Eradicator Hexapod. Looks like Master Leaf was able to grab another Juggernaut on that side. It's going to turn into artillery versus artillery over here, but they need to destroy those units as quickly as they can. Juggernauts do manage to take out the T3 as the Marv goes down as well, but Master Leaf has the lion's share of the forces. Master Leaf is in a much better spot than his opponent. Cultist grabbing 1, 2, maybe 3 Juggernauts here quickly. Looks like they only get 2 of them still. That's definitely got to sting. Not sure what Senna can do at this point. Mechapedes finally getting remembered, snaking around over to the other side. Cultists are going to go down, but it looks like the Juggernaut's going to die before anything can happen. Master Leaf finishes them off, thinking he's going to lose those Cultists. Corruptor moving its way forward, trying to kill the Zone Troopers. Zone Troopers are going to get kill on them instead. Master Leaf just has his absolute steamroll rolling down center, and I'm not sure if his opponent can do too much. However, he has taken a lot of losses here. More rocket squads moving their way in. This is so many husks here in the background. If Senna can make an engineer into a couple of those, it could help tip the scales. Even just taking one of these juggernauts could make a big difference, but he's not paying attention to his engineer there in the background. More and more rifleman squads go down. Husks are probably going to go down here in a minute if they're not careful. Storm Riders getting free kills on these harvesters, going for the blue Tiberium, trying to auto-harvester, and it looks like Master Leaf's been able to regroup a lot of his forces here in the center of the map. Devastator warships just doing so much damage to all these units. A couple of storm columns, actually, or storm riders, doing pretty decent damage here, mopping up a couple of these forces. One Mechapede left there, not rebuilding its segment. Those are probably those two Mechapedes that snake their way around. They need to build a couple of more segments, but maybe Master Leaf's hurting on the resources. It looks like he is hurting a little bit, but he's got plenty on the field to play with. Senna just absolutely refusing to give up. I say that, and then right on cue to make me a liar, he throws in the towel and gives it to Master Leaf. Master Leaf now has a 2-0 lead. Senna's not doing bad, but Master Leaf is doing a little bit better, especially on the micro front, especially on the subverting expectations. He's always in Senna's backline. Senna needs to tighten up his defense, needs to prepare for those cheeky tactics that Master Leaf's going to use. And I think what's really going to boil down to is if Senna gets knocked out of the tournament, I think it's going to boil down to this next round. And if what Master Leaf decides to play. Our next round is on Hampstead Gardens. Over in the top right-hand side of the map, Master Leaf playing in the green, looks like switching to Steel Talons. Senna, of course, on the bottom side of the map, switching off of GDI, moving over to Black Hand in the yellow still. Master Leaf not wanting to stick to any particular color, probably set on random. I can force colors for them, but I just can't be bothered. I don't want to deal with it. Probably going to be a traditional start for both players, although I think if you're going to pull one off on Master Leaf, he doesn't seem to do as well into the rushes. He seems to panic a little bit, so maybe that might be Senna's key to continuing and to staying in this tournament overall. That would definitely help him if he's able to push Master Leaf on his back foot and tilt him. But the thing is Senna's got to win 3 games in a row, while Master Leaf only has to win 1. It's not entirely impossible. We have seen it happen, and Senna can be the player to do it. He's really not a bad player. He's pretty good. I think Master Leaf might be slightly better depending on the day. Master Leaf will admit himself that he's not the most consistent player. When he's on, he really does seem on, but the other thing, though, too, is in the background, a lot of people forget, Master Leaf has a lot of IRL stuff going on top of him making sure the patches are updated and fixing a couple of problems, because during the Chrono Clash, we actually switched from R22.3 Alpha to Bravo in order to fix one of the big glaring issues that Master Leaf saw on the horizon. So it did change the version of the tournament, but he patched it extremely quickly. And from what it sounds like, it took him like 8 to 16 hours. So that's time he could have been practicing instead. But I really appreciate the effort, and I really appreciate Master Leaf for continuing to keep up these patches and keeping Kane's Wrath alive. The community has been very strong in Kane's Wrath, and I'm always excited to see everyone supporting each other with the tournaments. You know, Chrono Clash being sponsored by Chronosphere. With them dropping 2K, I think is pretty insane. And a 15 to 20-year-old game, however long Command & Conquer is at this point, is still kind of insane to me. And the fact that we have somebody working on dedicated mods for the game is pretty cool. A couple of watchtowers out to mop up defenses on both sides, it looks like. I'm sorry, I guess those were Confessor Cabal squads. Rifleman squad and Cabal choosing, neither one of them choosing to move forward. One probably getting caught. It looks like the Rifleman squad might get it, just barely. For those of you who don't know, that change in elevation, I believe there is a bit of fog of war over here to support whoever's on the lower slope. I guess it's more in the upper slope's advantage, depending on who's paying attention. Senna moving into his natural expansion a bit behind Master Leaf. Master Leaf putting a barracks on the front line, maybe expecting a bit of a rush here. Still, so far, nothing yet from him. Master Leaf hasn't been able to get a crazy amount of scouts out. Couple of Raider buggies here to deal with these pit bulls. They should manage to catch up with it, and if he's paying attention, they will cut it off. 3 should deal plenty of damage to the pit bulls unless a couple of reinforcements do join, but it looks like Senna's not paying too much attention to it, leaving one of the Raider buggies behind. Let's see if the players give me time to hydrate. One pit bull maybe going down there. There we go. The rockets did finally mop it up. Senna a little bit freed up over here to make his way into his opponent's base. Killing those Wolverines would be a good target, but maybe they're looking for something softer. One Wolverine's going to go down. 2 Wolverines going to go down over here. Master Leaf might be in a bit of trouble. He can't afford to lose those Wolverines this early into the game. They're not super expensive, but they are great for the defense. Looks like Senna's going full send into this. Not sure if he has a double war factory. There is the operations center, so we might see a couple of flame tanks. Not a bad strategy, because while you're worried about this bike and buggy, a couple of flame tanks might move their way in. And like I said before, I don't think Master Leaf does quite too amazingly into rushes. Although I've seen him be able to turn them around in the background. But Black Hand's one of those factions you just constantly have to keep an eye on. Because it doesn't matter how good you're doing, doesn't matter how good your defense is. Sometimes those flame tanks just sneak their way through. Senna skirmishing quite well here. His microing is really strong. His formations are really strong. He's finally stepping it up a little bit. More and more Wolverines go down left and right. All of these units sort of dying for free. Master Leaf sort of messing up here, losing units to this bike and buggy combination. A couple of Scorpion tanks making their way, going to join the fray here in a minute. Not sure if we have any flame tanks or anything just quite yet. That doesn't appear to be the case. Scorpion tanks regrouping with the bike and buggy. That should be a pretty good transition, especially if you split them up, I feel. MRTs with a couple of rocket squads can help definitely on the defense. They should do pretty well, and they will do better into the skirmishing than their opponent if they can keep them alive and if the focus fire is on Master Leaf's sides. A couple of Raider buggies moving their way in, trying to see what they can see, going for a couple of pot shots, but one going to get destroyed for free. But that does mean the bikes are freed up, maybe to go for MRTs or something else. A couple of volleys do launch, taking it down to about half HP, but it looks like they're trying to go completely around and maybe go for some of those harvesters, but Master Leaf is not going to let it happen. However, he's going to have much harder time dealing with all these Scorpion tanks as they roll their way into their base. Now these harvesters are in danger. These Wolverines are in danger, especially because there's a dozer upgrade giving the Scorpion tanks a little bit more armor. It's not going to help their damage, but it'll make them even harder to kill. Master Leaf does put the refinery down in low power mode, but he lifts it just as quickly. One refinery might get taken down here almost for free. MRTs and Wolverines moving their way over on the right-hand side, but I think the push definitely favors these Scorpion tanks. Mammoth tank here on the defense. A couple of Wolverines making their way on over on that side. One MRT going down. Purifiers, plenty to push all of this out. Redeemer being built in the background. Not sure if a Marv's being built in the background. Doesn't look like that. Losing that refinery's definitely got a sting. Senna about a K ahead. Master Leaf still managing to keep in step with him. A couple of Black Hand squads going to join the fray as well. Probably going to pop their way inside of this Redeemer. Master Leaf moving a couple of Wolverines and this Mammoth tank into the left-hand side of the map. Probably would be better on the defense than on the attack, but maybe he's trying to keep his opponent on his toes. MRTs and a couple of Rifleman squads joining that formation on the left-hand side. Redeemer has popped its way out. Black Hands making their way in. Probably Engineer making its, or sorry, Saboteur, same thing, making its way in. Master Leaf doing a little bit of scouting here. Is going to see that the Redeemer is here and going to see that the expansion has been expanded upon. Master Leaf moving into the old main base of his opponent, taking some free shots off on the refinery, but the biggest problem is going to be dealing with these Purifiers. Oh no, that's extremely unfortunate. Looks like we actually have a little bit of a desync here. Looks like at the 7-minute mark. Oh, that's extremely frustrating. I'm also going to check in the background to see if that indeed was supposed to be a 7-minute game. That might just be the end of it. No, that is indeed the end of it. I'm not sure if that's a disconnect or what happened there. Okay, so it wasn't me then. Indeed, it did last 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Making its first appearance, this is Tournament Decision. This is literally the first time I think I've seen Tournament Decision in Chrono Clash, and I have over 18 hours at this point of coverage of the Chrono Clash, so really nobody's been playing this. Not sure if it's just not a favored map or what the deal is with this. Either way, if Senna's not careful, this is match point for him. I'm not sure if they ended up counting that last round or not. Maybe they counted it towards Senna. Maybe Master Leaf just gave that. That may have actually been... I was watching a little bit of Master Leaf's stream, and that might explain that. Master Leaf may have forfeited and left the game there entirely because he edits a couple of the maps, and he boots those maps up so he can mess with the patches. So that might be what it was. He may have just called it default Senna's victory because he messed up, because he booted up the wrong map. He booted up that modded map, like I said, that he primarily functioned on. Either way, on the right-hand side, looks like it's going to be black hand and yellow once again for Senna, and over in the bottom left, in the cyan, Master Leaf is going to go with Traveler 59. Yep, okay, I got it right. You know. I'm slowly learning. I don't know why I can't get those factions down in my head. Master Leaf sending his first little scout in. Raider Buggy is going to take it out quick and in a hurry. Master Leaf putting a buzzer squad inside this little sector over here, probably worried about these defensive towers. Although I think these defensive towers are a little bit bugged. I remember them like having issues with not shooting. And funny enough, one of my first games, I commented on them not shooting, and then I watched, I think, Spartacus's, if y'all remember who that is, I watched Spartacus's gameplay, and he had the same issue, so it wasn't just me. Confessor Ball Squad's moving their way into Master Leaf's base along with this Raider Buggy, dealing nominal damage to this reactor. Buzzer Squad's going to pop its way out and eat those Confessor Cabal Squad's lunch. They are going to continue dealing minor amounts of damage. It looks like it's going to be standard opener for Senna. 2 refineries and 5 harvesters. I feel like you can go a 6th harvester there and maybe a 3rd refinery. And indeed, that is the case. There's the 6th harvester, so maybe 7 harvesters and 3 refineries per person. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 for each. And maybe a 7th to join. We'll get to see here in a moment. I don't know what's standard on this map. Either way, this should be a quick start. This should be a quick fight. At least we should move into the action rather quickly, I should say. Looks like 1 tip spike per player. Each one has managed to grab it. No, 2 tip spikes per player. In really kind of awkward positions. This is definitely going to make use of high ground. I don't get to see tournament decision too often, so I'm happy to be casting it now. We do have a growth accelerator here for Master Leaf out and ready to go. Portal there on the front line. Seeker tanks out on the front line, making their way into the center of the map, pushing out those Raider Buggies. But Raider Buggies probably want the assault here on the Shredder Turret. Shredder Turret probably getting spotted. A couple of Scorpion tanks here for the defense. Those are going to be great into those Seeker tanks and most of what Master Leaf has. Confessor Cabal Squad's going to scout out Master Leaf's forces just a little bit. Seeker tank's going to maybe move around to greener passengers. I guess they could go for this Tiberium spike if they want to. That would force tempo. Master Leaf already doing something cheeky. He's got a couple of cultists out ready to go. Probably going to see those here in a minute, I'm suspecting. Master Leaf very much so trying to keep his opponent's attention on this side, maybe making him think that he's going to go for this Tiberium spike while the cultist goes over here to the south. Master Leaf going to be the first to expand. Maybe that's what Master Leaf's doing, is he's delaying the expansion here for Senna, trying to get an economic lead. So far, both players are tied. Looks like one of the Raider Buggies was grabbed, saving the rest of the cultists. Drone ship did move its way forward and faster. Black Hand Squad's coming out here in number. A couple of Corruptors here trying to get close and deal a bit of damage, but Master Leaf not paying attention to it whatsoever. It's only going to get a little bit of shots off. Flame Tank is here. It looks like there's at least 1 Flame Tank in the center of the map. That's going to give the Seeker Tanks time to prepare for it. Master Leaf's going to see it. A couple of ones in the south as well. Cultists grabbing that Raider Buggy. Looks like they were ready to grab a couple of the Flame Tanks. That would be pretty unfortunate there to lose those. Black Hand Squad's moving into the center of the map. Master Leaf's going to have a hard time dealing with this. Looks like he went early Prodigy to grab a couple of these units. Maybe looking to grab that Flame Tank and turn it around on his opponent, turn it around on Senna. Corruptors moving their way forward. Does look like the stasis field did save the Corruptors, which means the Corruptors can either just go straight for the crush, it looks like. Corruptors being a little bit faster than I expected, destroying the majority of these Black Hand infantry, I should say. Don't get to see that too often. Corruptors just getting so many crushes. They are taking a bit of damage here, but that stasis field should keep them alive. Cultist moving in and grabbing another little bit of those units, making those losses even worse there for Senna. Corruptor sort of getting forgotten about over here in the north. Gonna have to deal with a tank and a couple of infantry left. Senna moving in on these cultists. Cultists taking a couple of shots for free. There are 2 cultists here. They can turn this assault around and force them for unit to kill unit, but I think he's holding on to them for those flame tanks, which he knows are around here somewhere. Buzzer Hype doing just fine there for the defense from Master Leaf. Senna hasn't been able to expand into this southern section just quite yet. He's got 4 flame tanks. If they can get close, they can do quite a large number of damage. That's going to be a 5th flame tank here for Tournament Decision. Gunwalker is going to whop up the majority of these infantry units here in the south. In the north. 1 flame tank sitting over there as well. He's going full send into these flame tanks. Raider Buggy going to move its way in. Cultist did grab it. Prodigy moving its way forward, looking for something to snack on. Black Hand Squad's going to kill a couple of these cultists, but not before they get captured. Black Hand Squad's going to have to die just as quickly. Redeemer has risen on the battlefield. Praise Kane making his way over towards the center of the map. Tiberium Spike going down for free to that flame tank, but Master Leaf now knows that flame tank is there. 2 flame tanks getting grabbed over here by the cultists. That's going to be really unfortunate for them. Another 2 getting grabbed by the Prodigy. That's going to be really, really unfortunate because the cultists cannot be killed to get these back. These are just now Master Leaf's units. That stops that assault entirely in the south. It would be nice to see that flame tank move into the south to try to make some gains. Where's the Redeemer? I think that's really going to boil down to how this is going to shape up. Senna moving his MCV over into this natural expansion and maybe trying to contest Master Leaf over there in that northern section. Looks like Flame Tanks did finally die, but Master Leaf got exactly what he wanted, sending another Flame Tank sort of to its doom while he just sits here pretty and continues to harvest resources. Black Hand Squad's, Mantis's, Flame Tank, and Redeemer making the march down to Master Leaf's old base, but I'm not sure he cares at this point. He's got an Eradicator Hexapod so close on the horizon. I guess he can turn it around and deal with this Redeemer if he needs to, and have a couple of Corruptors out and ready to go. Buzzer Hive Squad going to get a couple of maybe kills here, but at the very least it's going to act as a deterrent, act as a delay tactic there for all of that. Cultists continuing their assault, continuing grabbing unit after unit over on the right-hand side. Massive one-click hitting the Redeemer, giving that Eradicator Hexapod time to make it into the field. Prodigy also here on the front line as well. I think this might spell the doom for Senna. Not sure where Senna was able to put that MCV. Looks like he's got it there in the background, finally able to get a little bit more resources out and ready to go, but his Redeemer is in trouble. His Redeemer is in danger. Tripods did blink forward here to absorb some of the damage, but the rocket should be able to help tidy things up. However, in the background, there's also a Devastator Worship here for Master Leaf. Master Leaf just not letting up, not giving Senna a break. Looks like an EMP hit their Redeemer. There's the Rage Gen. Eradicator Hexapod going for its own units. I wonder if that gives money to Senna when that pops up. It looks like that's not going to be the case. It's just a case of friendly fire. Two-handed nods there on the front line to pad the formation for this Redeemer. Looks like a singular Black Hand Squad was grabbed by the cultists over on the right-hand side. 3 units, one finally going down, were grabbed on the right-hand side. Eradicator Hexapod moving its way in, supported by these Corruptors, supported by these Tripods, and the Redeemer needs to back its way out rather quickly. Mantis Tank also getting grabbed, saving that Devastator Warship. I think Senna is in trouble. Senna's going to have a hard time. He's got a couple of supercharged particle beams that's only going to be able to do so much. If he can get more and more of these defenses, more and more of these Hand of Nods out, that might help, but he's got to be hurting on resources, and indeed he is. Master Leaf can afford these trades, and with his Eradicator Hexapod, he's just getting more and more infusions of cash over on this center of the map, and this is where Senna's MCV is. If Senna loses this, he loses the game. Rage Gen does pop off, forcing Tripod to kill Tripod, or at the very least get them close, but the Corruptors look like they were able to keep them alive. Redeemer down to half HP. It looks like Eradicator Hexapod following suit, but the Corruptor should fix that here rather quickly. One does go down. I didn't realize they die like a bug. That does make sense. They curl up and a ball there when they do get destroyed. But the biggest thing is that Senna's economy is shrinking and shrinking. While Master Leaf still has time to expand over here, he could probably move his drone ship and continue his resources, continue his trade, but he's focusing all his attention on this Eradicator Hexapod, on this assault, on this Devastator Warship. 3 flame tanks getting grabbed once again. Senna trying to be cheeky, trying to use his flame tanks to his best ability, but it doesn't matter because the cultists moved their way in, and now they're being used against Senna. Hand a nod going down, probably soon followed by this Refinery, even if they do go down. Looks like that is going to be a heroic flame tank on the wrong side. Another heroic flame tank. That's going to be 2 heroic flame tanks making their way in on Senna's base. Senna is in trouble. There's another Rage Gen popping its way off. Tripod should focus their damage, but it looks like they're focus firing on the ground, saving them. This flame tank just destroying so much. One of them did get destroyed, but it doesn't matter. This heroic flame tank just absolutely devastating Senna. Eradicator Hexapod sitting inside Senna's base, going for this construction yard, and I think Senna is done. Put a fork in him because he definitely is dead. Redeemer going down here any minute. MCV going down. Harvester's getting crushed by the Eradicator Hexapod. There it is. There's the GG. Master Leaf getting a 3-point lead. I think they gave Senna the last point, so technically speaking, it's 3-1. Either way, Master Leaf's going to continue to press in the tournament, and I'm not sure where that puts Senna. Once again, I haven't sat down and memorized who's getting knocked out and who's not, but only time will definitely tell that, and we'll get to see them in the semifinals. Hopefully, Master Leaf does make it to the finals. He started off pretty shaky, but he seems to be playing more and more solid as the games go on. Thank you so much for joining me, Commander. I have been your host for the evening, Korak. Transmission out.